divine and mysterious immortality. I start my cultivation by adding points as a butcher. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 901 Return to the Immortal City. Outside Kangshan Immortal City. Hundreds of miles away from Kangshan Immortal City, Wei Hong was standing in midair and looking at the Immortal City. At this moment, Wei Hong did not appear in his true appearance, but changed into a more ordinary appearance and changed his own aura, looking like a middle-aged scholar. Even if Dingzhu was in person, she would never recognize that this person was Wei Hong. And the reason why he changed his appearance was that he was preparing to return to Kangshan Immortal City. Now that the decision has been made, there is no need to hesitate anymore. Wei Hong glanced in the direction of Kangshan Immortal City and flew over there decisively. He thought about it for a long time and finally decided to stay in Kangshan Immortal City. Because this is the place he is most familiar with, the power of Kangshan Immortal City is also relatively relaxed, without the strictness and exclusion of those sect forces, not to mention that Kangshan Immortal City is short of manpower at this time. If he chooses to join the past at this time, he will definitely be reused. So after considering for a long time and weighing the pros and cons, Wei Hong made what he thought was the most correct choice. However, although he decided to stay in Kangshan Immortal City, he did not want to stay with his real identity. So he thought about it and decided to change his identity to join, so he had his current identity after disguising himself. At this time, he was about to go to the Immortal City. While flying quickly, Wei Hong thought to himself, with my current strength, plus the fact that my disguise technique has already reached the limit, it is absolutely difficult for a cultivator in the Jinden stage to see through me. But in front of a Yuanying cultivator like Kangshan's Henren, I may have no way to hide. Although he thought about it, he did not mean to worry much. In such a large world of immortal cultivation, there are countless cultivators who have disguised themselves to join various forces. As long as he can prove that he has no ill will towards Kangshan Immortal City, or even sincerely wants to join, even if there are some problems with his identity, he will definitely accept it. What's more, with the situation of Kangshan Immortal City, he estimated that even if Kangshan's Henren saw through his disguise, it would not be a problem. Kangshan's Henren would definitely not reject him, so he did not worry much. It is said that Kangshan Immortal has been seriously injured and is in seclusion. Whether we can see him is still a matter of debate. Putting aside the thoughts in his mind, Wei Hong quickly flew to Kangshan Immortal City. Soon, he arrived outside Kangshan Immortal City. At this time, he looked down from a high place and saw that the gates of Kangshan Immortal City were still bustling with people coming and going. There were countless cultivators coming in and out. It seemed that the previous war did not have much impact on Kangshan Immortal City. However, Wei Hong knew that everything should not be judged by appearance. Kangshan Immortal City suffered such heavy losses that there were only a few Jinden stage cultivators left. This was definitely an unbearable weakening for a force. Therefore, the strength of Kangshan Immortal City has definitely shrunk a lot now, but it has nothing to do with ordinary casual cultivators. After arriving at the gate of the Immortal City, he did not go into the city directly, but pondered for a while, and then directly released his own Jinden aura. Buzz! An invisible pressure instantly emerged and spread towards Kangshan Immortal City. When this terrifying golden elixir aura enveloped the sky above Kangshan Immortal City, it instantly caused countless cultivators to panic and exclaim, "Golden elixir cultivator? Who is it? What's going on? Could it be that the blood spirit sect has come in again? Golden elixir master? Come on, come into the city. Go, come on, come into the city, don't block the way." Various panicked voices came one after another. Under the pressure of Wei Hong's terrifying aura, many cultivators inside and outside the city gates suddenly became a mess, and subconsciously wanted to rush into the Immortal City. Because they were deeply afraid that Wei Hong was an evil cultivator of the blood spirit sect who came to attack Kangshan Immortal City. If this was true, they would definitely suffer unimaginable terrorist attacks if they stayed outside the city, and it was estimated that few would survive, so everyone wanted to rush into the city for refuge. Many cultivators not far from the city gate also felt Wei Hong's aura, and at this time they were in even greater chaos. Various sounds of people getting up in a hurry and tables and chairs falling down kept coming, and many cultivators couldn't help but show panic on their faces. After all, The battle between Kangshan Immortal City and the Blood Spirit sect had just ended not long ago, and most of the cultivators who had experienced it were naturally terrified. For a time, because of Wei Hong's arrival, a small part of Kangshan Immortal City was in chaos, and almost everyone was worried. Fortunately, Wei Hong's aura was only released and then retracted, and it did not last long. At this moment, a long roar containing shock and anger suddenly rose from the city to the sky. The next breath, a figure flew towards the outside of the city with a long roar, and it was aggressive and murderous. This figure released the golden elixir aura without any scruples at this time, as if to intimidate Wei Hong, a golden elixir cultivator who suddenly appeared and whose identity was unknown. Seeing the main person appear, Wei Hong completely retracted his aura, and then squinted his eyes and looked at the person who came, wanting to see his appearance clearly. Swish! The figure that flew out of the city instantly came to the sky above the city gate and confronted Wei Hong in the air. "Who are you, fellow Taoist? What are you doing in our immortal city?" The figure revealed his true appearance after he appeared, and then looked at Wei Hong with a cold face and asked. Fortunately, Wei Hong's aura was retracted as soon as it was released, and he did not show any malice. After releasing the aura, he did not do any other dangerous actions. It seemed that he was not an invading enemy, so this person did not show obvious hostility, and there was a hint of politeness in his tone of inquiry. No matter what, Wei Hong is a giant and cultivator. Such an identity should not be underestimated anywhere. As long as he does not clearly express his intention to become an enemy of Kangshan Immortal City, Kangshan Immortal City will never dare to make an enemy rashly. However, after Wei Hong saw the appearance of the person who came, he immediately said in surprise in his heart, "Is it him?" The giant and cultivator who appeared in front of him at this time was actually Bidang Mo, the former head of Dan Wang Pavilion. Wei Hong did not expect Bidang Mo to be one of the few surviving giant and cultivators, and he happened to meet him at this time. However, there was no sign of anything unusual on his face, as if he didn't recognize Bidang Mo at all. After all, he had changed his identity and disguised himself into another look. It was impossible for him to know Bidang Mo with this identity, so he must not show any abnormality. Facing Bidang Mo's slightly impolite question, Wei Hong politely bowed to the other party and said, "May I know what this Taoist friend's name is? I am Yu Bai, a casual cultivator. Thank you for your courtesy." Seeing his polite attitude, as if he really didn't come to offend the immortal city, Bidang Mo's expression eased a lot, and then he forced a smile on his face, bowed his hands in return and said, "Haha, it turns out to be Taoist Mu. I am Bidang Mo, now the Deputy City Lord of Kangshan Immortal City. I wonder what the purpose of your visit is." Chapter 902 Bidang Mo, the Golden Elixir Guest. "So you are the Deputy City Lord of Xiancheng. I am so sorry." Wei Hong's eyes flashed with surprise, and he smiled and clasped his hands again. In fact, he was even more surprised in his heart. He didn't expect that after the battle with the Blood Spirit sect, Bidang Mo, the leader of Dan Wang Pavilion, had become the Deputy City Lord of Xiancheng. This is a high-ranking position, but now it is held by Bidang Mo. This not only surprised Wei Hong secretly, but also confirmed his previous thoughts in his heart. Sure enough, the original Deputy City Lords should have died in the battle, and Bidang Mo was able to survive. He is also a late giant and cultivator. In the case of a serious shortage of manpower, it is reasonable to appoint him as the Deputy City Lord. Wei Hong quickly guessed the general context of Bidang Mo's appointment as the Deputy City Lord. At this time, after the surprise and shock in his heart, he was more happy. Since Bidang Mo was the Deputy City Lord and he was someone he knew before, it was the best for him. Bidang Mo just happened to introduce him to the city. Bidang Mo still kept a smile on his face in the face of Wei Hong's courtesy, but the vigilance in his eyes did not diminish at all. Instead, he continued to ask, "Fellow Taoist Mu is polite. I wonder why fellow Taoist Mu came towards Xiancheng this time? If I can do it for you, please don't be polite." He said he was doing it for you, but in fact he wanted to find out the real purpose of Wei Hong's trip. Wei Hong also became serious at this time. He had no intention of beating around the bush and answered directly, "To be honest with fellow Taoist Bidang, Mu came here this time to join your Xiancheng as a guest official. I wonder if it's okay." As soon as these words came out, Bidang Mo's face instantly became wonderful. First he felt unbelievable, then he turned into surprise and ecstasy, all kinds of emotions emerged, and finally a trace of imperceptible vigilance appeared in the depths of his eyes. It seemed hard to believe that a giant in Sanxi would take the initiative to surrender at this time. Join our immortal city as a guest? Taoist brother Mu, are you serious? Bideng took a deep breath and suppressed all the thoughts in his mind, then looked at Wei Hong with a very cautious look. If this is true, it would be a great joy for their Kangshan immortal city. Thinking of this, Bideng heart was inevitably excited. There was no way. There were too many casualties among the Jinden cultivators in Kangshan Immortal City, and there was an extreme lack of Jinden guests like Wei Hong, otherwise Bideng would not have such an excited reaction. If it were in the past, even if they could accept Wei Hong, they would have to go through various investigations and considerations, and the decision would be made by Kangshan's Henrin himself. But now, Bideng can make the decision and directly agree to Wei Hong. But before that, Bideng needs to investigate carefully. Wei Hong seemed to have anticipated Bideng reaction. He smiled and said, "Yes, I am serious. I am a casual cultivator. I am sincere in joining Kangshan Immortal City. It depends on whether Bideng City Lord can accept me." He pretended to be a casual cultivator just to prove his sincerity. If he had other backgrounds, no matter how nice he said, Bideng would never agree to it easily. He would only accept it after a careful investigation. Sure enough, Bideng was very satisfied with Wei Hong's sincere answer. However, he was also very cautious. He immediately said in a gentle manner, "Don't blame me, fellow Taoist Mu. This matter is too sudden. Although it is a good thing, I also need to be responsible for the immortal city. Before that, can I ask you some questions?" Facing Wei Hong at this time, Bideng showed a completely different attitude from before. Wei Hong nodded in understanding and said, "Fellow Taoist Bideng, there is no need to explain anything. I understand very well. After all, joining the immortal city is no small matter. People with unknown origins cannot be accepted. Just ask." His open and above-board appearance immediately reduced Bideng vigilance by 3 points. Bideng smiled and asked, "Fellow Taoist Mu said that he is a casual cultivator. I wonder where you have been cultivating before. To be honest, I have only broken through to the golden core stage for 20 to 30 years. I have been in the immortal city before, but I left the immortal city 100 years ago to travel. I have been to Giant's Hao and King's Hao successively. Later, I got some opportunities and successfully broke through to the golden core stage." Wei Hong had already prepared a plan in his mind and set out the words he had thought of before. There are several major dynasties in the world of cultivating immortals, and the Day dynasty they are in is one of them. The Day dynasty was divided into 9 states, of which Giant's Hao and King's Hao were 2 of them, and the area where Kangshan Immortal City was located was Chuzhou, adjacent to Giant's Hao and King's Hao. Although he had never really been to Giant's Hao and King's Hao, he had seen a lot of maps and classics, and now he seemed to be very familiar with them. Moreover, Bideng would not really go to investigate, so he naturally did not worry about anything wrong with this statement. Bideng nodded from time to time while listening, and then asked, "I wonder what kind of attribute of the cultivation method that Brother Mu Dao practiced? Can you demonstrate it to me?" When asking this question, Bideng's eyes were fixed on Wei Hong, as if he wanted to see through him and see if he would hide anything. The reason why Wei Hong was asked to demonstrate was to find out the attribute of the cultivation method he practiced. Generally speaking, the cultivation methods practiced by each cultivator are different, but the cultivation methods practiced by many disciples of the sects are very distinctive and very easy to recognize. Just like the Blood Spirit sect, if Wei Hong was disguised as one of the evil cultivators of the Blood Spirit sect, the cultivation method he practiced would definitely expose him completely, because the evil cultivators of the Blood Spirit sect all carried a strong blood color and evil spirit. The reason why he didn't ask directly about the name of the cultivation method was because it was the secret of every cultivator, and it could not be asked, so as not to offend others' taboos. Wei Hong smiled and nodded, "Of course, fellow Taoist, please watch." After that, he immediately practiced a cultivation method on the spot, and a layer of misty light immediately appeared on his body, and a faint fragrance of plants and trees was also emitted. The next moment, Wei Hong urged his magic power again and slashed directly towards the distant void. A green sword light slashed directly, and it passed through the void for hundreds of feet before slowly dissipating. After the demonstration, Wei Hong looked at Bideng with a smile on his face. Bideng was now at peace, and had basically determined that Wei Hong was definitely not an evil cultivator of the Blood Spirit sect, nor was he a disciple of other sects. This was beyond doubt. Because the hazy light that appeared on Wei Hong's body just now was a sign that only appeared when he was practicing the technique with all his strength. The green light represented that Wei Hong was practicing the wood-attributed technique, and the green sword light that he had just slashed out could also prove this. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 903, with ease. Haha, fellow Taoist Mu, please come in quickly. We in Kangshan Immortal City welcome you to join us. Bidang Mo smiled heartily, his expression full of joy. He extended his hand to make an invitation gesture, and his eyes looking at Wei Hong became much kinder. After the previous test of the skills, Bidang Mo continued to interrogate him and asked some key questions. Wei Hong answered them with ease and without any panic. He was extremely calm and was not afraid of Bidang Mo's investigation at all. After the initial interrogation, Bidang Mo was immediately overjoyed, and immediately put down 90% of his vigilance about Wei Hong's initiative to surrender. So he naturally invited Wei Hong into the city immediately and prepared to have a detailed discussion. Facing Bidang Mo's invitation, Wei Hong did not leave immediately, but asked with a smile, "Fellow Taoist Bidang, has Mu passed the test?" The so-called passing the test was of course a joke. If you want to join a force, you must be checked and examined. The examination of other forces may be more strict, but Bidang Mo just checked casually, which is already very lenient. So Wei Hong did not have any dissatisfaction. Bidang Mo immediately laughed and said, "Haha, fellow Taoist Mu, don't blame me. I believe you also know that our Kangshan Fairy City has just experienced a war and suffered heavy losses. It is naturally a great joy that you can take the initiative to surrender, but I must also check according to the rules. I hope you don't mind." Haha, fellow Taoist Bidang is joking. Mu naturally understands. If it were me, I would also follow the rules. Wei Hong also laughed without caring. Seeing Wei Hong's attitude, Bidang Mo was relieved and immediately invited him again with a smile. "Mu Dao, please come in quickly. I will inform City Lord Lei immediately. I believe that City Lord Lei will be very happy when he knows that Mu Dao has joined." "Okay, then I'll trouble Bidang Dao to lead the way." Wei Hong nodded and agreed. Since he had already agreed to join Kangshan Xianchang and Bidang Mo invited him so enthusiastically, he naturally couldn't put on airs, so he agreed very readily. "Haha, that's right, Mu Dao, please." Bidang Mo grinned and immediately turned around to lead the way. Wei Hong immediately followed Bidang Mo, and the two flew into the city together. With Bidang Mo leading the way, the original city defense formation naturally no longer formed an obstacle. He saw Bidang Mo take out a forbidden token and cast a mana, which opened a passage in the city defense formation, and then he flew directly in. "Dao Mu, let's go to the City Lord's mansion to meet City Lord Lei first. Dao's joining is very important. All matters must be decided by City Lord Lei. City Lord Lei will also discuss with Dao in detail about the treatment of being a guest official." After Wei Hong flew into the city defense formation, Bidang Mo immediately led him to the City Lord's mansion. The cultivators inside and outside the city who were originally panicking and thought that the evil cultivators of the Blood Spirit sect had come to kill them again, when they saw Bidang Mo personally leading Wei Hong into the city, they immediately breathed a sigh of relief. "Haha, it's a friend, not an enemy, don't panic." "Huh? It turns out they are not here to attack the Immortal City, you scared me." Disperse, nothing happened, fellow Taoists. Don't make a fuss. Let's go. I still have to leave the city, why are you blocking here?" A large number of cultivators were crowded inside and outside the city gate. They were very worried that Wei Hong, the giant and cultivator who suddenly appeared, was here to attack the Immortal City. Who knew that he was not, but was led into the city by their deputy city lord. Now they were relieved and slowly dispersed. Bidang Mo brought Wei Hong directly to the city lord's mansion and brought him into the reception hall. At this time, there was already a person waiting at the first seat in the reception hall. "City Lord, this is fellow Taoist Mu." After entering the reception hall, Bidang Mo immediately bowed to the person sitting at the top. Bidang Mo had just passed the message to the City Lord Lei Ling, and the person waiting here was the City Lord of Kangshan Immortal City. Before Wei Hong could speak, the city lord Lei Ling immediately stood up and walked towards them, laughing as he walked, saying, "Haha, good, good, I am Lei Ling, the city lord of Kangshan Immortal City, and welcome fellow Taoist Mu to join us." Bidang Mo briefly explained the whole thing to Lei Ling when he was summoned. At this time, Lei Ling was even more generous and directly expressed his acceptance of Wei Hong. It was obvious that he trusted Bidang Mo very much and did not need to review him again. At this time, Wei Hong took a step forward, bowed his hands and said, "I am Yu Bai, a casual cultivator, and I am honored to meet City Lord Lei." "Hey, what casual cultivator or not?" Lei Ling immediately waved his hand indifferently, and then smiled and said, "After fellow Taoist Mu became a guest official of our Immortal City, we are a family. Immortal City is also fellow Taoist Mu's home, and there is no need to mention the word casual cultivator." Hearing this, Wei Hong looked up at Lei Ling. He found that Lei Ling seemed to be very charismatic, and just a few words made people feel very good about him. Wei Hong saw that Lei Ling was tall and well-proportioned, with a handsome appearance. He did look a little righteous. His long black hair was tied into a simple bun, and he looked like a middle-aged man. Whether he was talking or smiling, people would be attracted to him unconsciously. The most important thing was that Lei Ling had an aura of majesty without anger, which was obviously the aura formed by his long-term high position as the Lord of Kangshan Immortal City. However, Lei Ling did not deliberately show such a trace of aura, and the whole person looked very gentle at this time. Moreover, Lei Ling obviously could not see through Wei Hong's disguise, which made him feel slightly relieved. Wei Hong also laughed and said, "Haha, it is really an honor for you to be accepted by fellow Taoist Lei and fellow Taoist Bidang." After seeing Lei Ling's attitude, he knew that joining Kangshan Immortal City was basically settled. Sure enough, Lei Ling immediately responded, "Friend Mu can take the initiative to join our Kangshan Immortal City at this time. How can we not accept him? It makes more sense. Our Immortal City has always been open to cultivators from all over the world. As long as they are sincere in joining our Immortal City, we will definitely accept them sincerely and there is no reason to refuse. Since it comes to this, Lei will simply talk to friend Mu about the matter of joining in detail. Come, let's sit down and talk." At Lei Ling's signal, Wei Hong and Bidang Mo took their seats, and after they sat down, a maid immediately served spiritual tea. Then, Lei Ling stared at Wei Hong and asked directly, "Friend Mu, I am really happy that you can join our Immortal City, but I have one question to ask first. Taoist, do you know what the current situation of our Immortal City is?" After this, Bidang Mo and Wei Hong had different reactions. Bidang Mo's eyes flashed with a strange color, but he didn't say much. Wei Hong's expression slightly changed, and after thinking for a while, he replied calmly, "To be honest with you, Brother Lei, I did hear about the current situation in Xiancheng before I came here." Chapter 904 Watching with Eager Eyes. "Oh? What do you think, fellow Taoist Mu?" Lei Ling asked directly. Wei Hong understood what Lei Ling meant, so he said bluntly, "It's very simple. The current situation of Xiancheng can be described in 4 words, that is, surrounded by wolves. The previous battle with the Blood Spirit sect is almost unknown in the cultivation world. Many giant and cultivators died in the city. This is also a well-known fact, so the overall strength of Xiancheng has been greatly weakened. In this case, the surrounding sects will naturally be eyeing Xiancheng and want to share it. I wonder if what I said is right." After saying that, Wei Hong looked up at Lei Ling who was at the top. Lei Ling cast an approving look and said, "Yes, what fellow Taoist Mu said is very true. It can indeed be described as surrounded by wolves." So Lei wants to ask, since fellow Taoist Mu knows the current situation of Xiancheng, why did he take the initiative to join Xiancheng? As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere in the entire reception hall seemed to become settled. Bidang Mo's face remained unchanged, and he tasted the spiritual tea calmly. Lei Ling stared at Wei Hong with a burning gaze, carefully observing all his reactions. Wei Hong smiled lightly upon hearing this, and answered directly, "If I say that I don't like being bound, and don't like the rules of those big sects, I may not be accepted by those big sects. I wonder if this answer of Mu can satisfy Brother Lei." Seeing Wei Hong's frank and straightforward appearance, Lei Ling immediately clapped his hands and laughed, "Ha ha ha, good, Brother Mu's words are enough." Lei is very satisfied. "Brother Mu, welcome to join the Immortal City. From now on you will be a giant and stage guest official of our Kangshan Immortal City." Lei Ling's words determined Wei Hong's stay or departure. For a giant and casual cultivator like him who can take the initiative to join, Lei Ling has absolutely no reason to push him out at this time of transition. Even if Wei Hong really has ulterior motives, Lei Ling is confident that he can easily suppress such an early giant and cultivator. And Kangshan Immortal City can get a giant and stage guest official, which is definitely a timely help for the current Immortal City. Thinking of this, Lei Ling couldn't help but feel in a good mood. Wei Hong smiled slightly, stood up and bowed, saying, "Haha, meet the city lord. Hey, there's no need to address him like that. We are all family. Calling him the city lord is too distant." Lei Ling immediately waved his hand, and then said, "Next, let's talk about the treatment of the guests in the fairy city." "Okay, fellow Taoist Lei, please go ahead." Wei Hong was looking forward to it. He was actually very curious about how much treatment a giant and stage cultivator would get as a guest of Kangshan Fairy City. Especially if he chose to join at such a critical moment, what difference would he get in treatment? Lei Ling pondered for a moment, seemed to have made a decision, and introduced directly, "Fellow Taoist Mu, I will introduce you first. If you have any dissatisfaction, please feel free to ask." First, after serving as a guest official, fellow Taoist Mu can arbitrarily choose 2 exercises below the upper grade of the earth rank, and 4 spells. This is free. If you want to choose exercises and spells in the future, you will need to exchange them with merit points. Second, fellow Taoist can read and practice any classics related to various skills without any restrictions. Third, after serving as a guest official, fellow Taoist Mu's salary is 3,000 high-grade spirit stones per year. If there are special tasks, or if fellow Taoist Mu needs to take other actions, he will be rewarded separately. Fourth, fellow Taoist can obtain a cave that belongs to you alone in the inner city, and you can choose it by yourself at that time. Fifth, there are no mandatory tasks for the guest officials of our fairy city. Fellow Taoist is completely free on weekdays. If there are any tasks, we will notify you separately. Sixth, Lei Ling introduced the treatment of guest officials in Kangshan Fairy City to Wei Hong in detail. Wei Hong listened carefully and compared the 2 secretly. He also found that Bidang Mo, who was sitting opposite him, looked a little surprised after hearing about the treatment, and even glanced at Lei Ling secretly. This made Wei Hong's heart move slightly, as if he understood something. However, he did not ask rashly, but waited for Lei Ling to finish his introduction. After a while, after Lei Ling finished talking about the treatment, he asked with a smile, "Fellow Taoist Mu, is there anything you are dissatisfied with? If you feel dissatisfied with any of them, you can raise it." Wei Hong did not express his dissatisfaction, but asked with a little doubt, "Mu, I would like to ask one more question. I wonder if I am treated the same as other guests." Haha, it is normal for fellow Taoist Mu to have such doubts. Lei Ling seemed to have anticipated Wei Hong's doubts, so he answered without hesitation, "To be honest, if it was decades ago, you would never have received such treatment. For example, the first one, the giant and cultivators who joined our Kangshan Immortal City as guests before, regardless of whether they were in the early or late stages of cultivation, were all treated equally. Whether it was a technique or a spell, they could only choose one for free, and they could only choose a technique below the middle level of the earth rank. And there is also the salary. All previous guests received an annual salary of 1,000 high-quality spirit stones. Fellow Taoist should be able to understand the difference, right? You can also slowly inquire about the rest of the Taoist friends later. If you are still dissatisfied, you can come to me again." Lei Ling's meaning is very clear. This treatment is obviously several times higher than the previous guest official. If you look at it together, it is even more than 10 times higher. It is absolutely full of sincerity. There is no need to cover up or lie about these things. After Wei Hong joined the Immortal City, he can understand them clearly as long as he inquires casually. Therefore, Lei Ling does not need to lie in this regard, so as not to offend Wei Hong, the new guest official. After Wei Hong made a brief comparison in his mind, he smiled with satisfaction and said, "Okay, since Taoist Lei is sincere, then I will accept it with a thick face." As the saying goes, it is easy to add icing on the cake, but it is difficult to send charcoal in the snow. The reason why Wei Hong chose to stay in Kangshan Immortal City is to get a higher treatment. Now, as he expected, in order to keep him, the city lord Lei Ling directly gave him a very high treatment to show their sincerity. Wei Hong was naturally very satisfied with this. Seeing that Wei Hong was not dissatisfied, Lei Ling also smiled with satisfaction and said, "Haha, Good, this is what fellow Taoist Mu deserves. Why are you so shameless? On the contrary, fellow Taoists joining has added a lot of color to our immortal city. Since fellow Taoist can accept it, let's sign the spiritual contract. Come, fellow Taoist Mu, take a look first. If there is nothing wrong, just spray a mouthful of blood on the spiritual contract. After saying that, Lei Ling took out a 3-foot spiritual contract that looked like gold but not gold, jade but not jade from the storage bag. On the spiritual contract were written some contracts that were effective and binding for both parties. After Wei Hong took it, he carefully checked it. Chapter 905, Cave, Banquet. Half a quarter of an hour later, Wei Hong decisively sprayed a mouthful of blood on the spiritual contract, and from then on signed the contract to become a guest official of Kangshan Immortal City. He had carefully reviewed all the terms on this spiritual contract and found no problems. It also stated that the minimum time to serve as a guest official was 10 years. If you want to cancel this spiritual contract after 10 years, you only need the consent of both parties. It can be said that this is a very loose spiritual contract, which is exactly what Wei Hong wanted. Of course, there are no fewer restrictions, such as not being able to sell out the immortal city, not being able to do anything unfavorable to the immortal city, etc. These terms and restrictions are all on the surface. For someone like him who sincerely wants to join the immortal city, it is actually not a restriction. As long as it does not harm the interests of the immortal city, these restrictions are like decorations and do not need to be paid attention to at all. If the contract is really violated, the consequences are definitely not something a giant and cultivator can bear. Wei Hong was open-minded and naturally signed it without any worries. Haha, fellow Taoist Mu, on behalf of our master and all the cultivators in the city, I welcome you to join us. Seeing Wei Hong sign the spiritual contract without any hesitation, Lei Ling laughed with satisfaction, and his eyes became more friendly and gentle when he looked at Wei Hong. Only then did he regard Wei Hong as his own. So Lei Ling immediately took out a token from his storage bag and handed it over. Fellow Taoist Mu, this is your guest token. When you go back, you can use your blood essence to make a little sacrifice. In this way, this token is enough to prove your identity. With this token, you can also enter and exit the city freely. And the number of times you have chosen the exercises for free, Lei has also recorded it in the token. When you go back, you only need to take the token to the library. Lei Ling seemed to be well prepared, and Bidang Mo next to him also had a smile on his face. Wei Hong took the token without any hesitation, and then said with a smile, "Thank you, fellow Taoist Lei, and fellow Taoist Bidang. I am new here, and I will need your guidance in the future." Upon hearing this, Bidang Mo immediately waved his hands and laughed. Fellow Taoist Mu is too polite. This is just my job. I can show you around later. I believe you will not be disappointed. Lei Ling also chuckled and nodded. That's right. Not only that, Lei will immediately issue a city-wide notice to announce fellow Taoist Mu's joining, and prepare to hold a banquet in 3 days to welcome fellow Taoist Mu's arrival. But after Wei Hong heard Lei Ling's arrangement, he subconsciously shook his head with a little resistance. There is no need for a banquet, right? Is this too high profile? Mu is really flattered. Hey, how can this be considered high profile? Lei Ling waved his hand and made the decision directly. This matter is settled. Fellow Taoist, don't worry about anything. This is what should be done. It's just the right thing to do. This banquet will also allow you to get to know the guests in our fairy city. Lei will also invite all the major forces in the city. Lei will be in charge of this matter. Fellow Taoist Mu doesn't need to prepare anything. Just attend on time in 3 days. Hearing this, although Wei Hong didn't want to be too high profile, he couldn't refuse Lei Ling's arrangement. After all, he really needed to get to know other giant and guests in the fairy city, so he nodded and agreed. Okay, then fellow Taoist Bidang will lead fellow Taoist Mu to choose a cave. After settling down, you can do whatever you want. After saying that, Lei Ling looked at Bidang Mo. Bidang Mo immediately understood and said, let's go. Fellow Taoist Mu, I'll take you to choose a cave first. All the matters of joining the fairy city have been settled, and the next step is to settle down. Wei Hong nodded, bowed to Lei Ling and left the city lord's mansion with Bidang Mo. After leaving the city lord's mansion, Bidang Mo took him directly to a loft next to the city lord's mansion. Meet the deputy city lord. There was a 5-foot-high counter in the loft. Behind the counter, an old man was checking an account book. When he saw someone coming in, he was about to ask, But he immediately saw Bidangmo's face, so he immediately saluted in panic. Bidangmo just waved his hand and ordered, "Old Li, quickly take out the map of the inner city caves and let fellow Taoist Mu choose." Ah, the map of the inner city caves. The old man was startled again, and then looked at Wei Hong next to Bidangmo. Bidangmo introduced at the right time, "Look carefully, this is Mu Beimu Taoist who has just joined our Xiancheng as a guest official. This time he came to select a cave. I am Wang Hai, I didn't know that you were a guest official in person, please forgive me." The old man looked at Wei Hong with a shocked expression when he heard this, and then his face was full of ecstasy, and then he hurriedly walked out from behind the counter and immediately bowed to Wei Hong. Wei Hong smiled lightly and said indifferently, "No need to be polite, I wonder where the map is." Yes, I will bring it to you right away." The old man hurriedly took out a jade slit and handed it to Wei Hong, and then immediately ordered someone to bring chairs to the two of them and serve them tea, fearing that he would neglect them in the slightest. After doing all this, the old man came to Wei Hong and introduced him, "Sir, this jade slip contains the location of all the caves in the inner city. The red dots indicate that they have owners, and the green dots indicate that they are unowned. The unowned caves can be chosen by you." "Okay, let me take a look first." After saying that, Wei Hong put the jade slip on his forehead. Soon he opened his eyes again, and then asked the old man with a little doubt, "Fellow Taoist Wang, there are hundreds of caves in this inner city. Are they all reserved for giant and period guests?" The jade slip recorded hundreds of caves distributed inside, and this number surprised Wei Hong. However, before the old man could answer, Bidangmo on the side smiled and explained, "Haha, fellow Taoist Mu, you don't know that although there are hundreds of caves in the inner city, not all of them are reserved for guests to live in, and there are differences between caves. Among these hundreds of caves, the 20 or so in the innermost layer have the most abundant spiritual energy, and are generally allocated to guests in the Jinden stage, or are inhabited by disciples of Yuan Ying's Henrun. Except for the 20 or so caves, the remaining caves are slightly inferior. Some are reserved for outstanding disciples in the immortal city, and some are rented out. The red dots you saw just now prove that the caves are already inhabited. Fellow Taoist Mu, do you know that there is a rare high-grade spiritual vein under our inner city? This was captured by Henren Kangshan from the Qianling Mountains with his magical powers and buried underground. The hundreds of caves are built above the spiritual vein, so the spiritual energy in each cave is extremely abundant. As the head of Dangwon Pavilion decades ago and the deputy city lord of Xiancheng today, Bidangmo was naturally very familiar with the hundreds of caves in the inner city, and it was effortless for him to answer Wei Hong's questions. Chapter 906, 7 Golden Pills. Magic Power. Detaining Spiritual Veins. Wei Hong was shocked. He never expected that the Kangshan master would have such terrible strength. The old man beside him nodded proudly and said, "Yes, this is not a rumor, but a real thing." Bidangmo also smiled and nodded, without saying anything more. Wei Hong said with emotion, as expected of a master in the nascent soul stage, "His strength is really terrifying." Then he turned to look at the old man beside him and confirmed directly, "Then I will choose cave number 12. That cave happens to be ownerless." The old man beside him nodded immediately and said, "Yes, cave number 12 was vacant a few years ago. Since the guest has chosen cave number 12, I will help you arrange it right away." After that, the old man went back to the counter and took out a brush to record it in a booklet, then updated the map in the jade slip, and finally came to Wei Hong with a forbidden token. "Please keep it, my lord. With this restriction token, you can freely enter and exit cave number 12, and this token can also control all the formation restrictions inside the cave." After saying that, the old man handed the token to Wei Hong. Wei Hong nodded after taking it. "Okay, thank you." "You're welcome." The old man looked flattered. 2 hours later. In the inner city, in front of cave number 12. It is called a cave, but it is actually a huge courtyard. Because Kangshan Immortal City is located in the four-sided plain, it is not rooted in various sacred mountains and caves like other sects, so the caves in the city are not built on the mountain, but built in the style of a courtyard. Just like the cave number 12 in front of Wei Hong, it is actually a spacious courtyard with 2 entrances, with an area of hundreds of feet wide. According to what the old man said before, there is everything in the cave. Training room, bedroom, secret room, medicine garden, refining room, alchemy room and talisman painting room, etc. It can be said to have everything. Moreover, The old man who was in charge of the cave house just now asked Wei Hong about his preferences and taboos, and directly arranged 8 maids for him. However, Wei Hong thought about it and chose to refuse. He did not need anyone to serve him, nor did he want to have someone around him when practicing. Buzz! He took out the forbidden token and shook it gently, and the formation in front of the number 12 cave house opened a passage. After Wei Hong raised his foot and walked in, the passage immediately closed up. Then Wei Hong pushed open the door and walked directly into the yard. After entering the yard, the whole yard was very spacious. There were pavilions, flower beds, rockery and flower beds and other facilities in the yard, and the layout was very delicate, which made people feel very comfortable at a glance. Wei Hong just glanced casually, then walked through the front yard and went directly to the backyard. The master bedroom, practice room, alchemy room, medicine garden and refining room, etc. He checked them one by one and found that there were all kinds of things, nothing was missing, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth here was indeed very abundant, which made him very satisfied. After a careful inspection, he went directly to the training room. He took out the golden silk cushion and spread it on the ground. Then Wei Hong sat cross-legged, and then muttered to himself, "Yes, everything went smoothly, and the result was indeed as I expected." Kangshan Immortal City gave extremely high treatment, and this treatment was simply incomparable to the previous guest officials. This time, choosing to stay in Kangshan Immortal City was really the right choice. Whether it was the 2 exercises and 4 spells promised by Lei Ling, or the freedom to read various books on immortal cultivation techniques, this made him feel very surprised, not to mention the annual salary of 3,000 high-quality spirit stones. Especially the 2 earth-level exercises and 4 spells, Wei Hong had been looking forward to it for a long time. After breaking through to the Golden Core stage, Wei Hong was actually not very satisfied with the Qingguang sword art, the main technique he practiced. Not only was the power of the Qingguang sword art slightly insufficient, but the techniques also had fewer means, and the grade of the Qingguang sword art itself was not very high, so he had long had the idea of changing the technique. Joining Kangshan Immortal City as a guest official this time can just meet his needs. As for the 4 spells, Wei Hong has long wanted to practice the spells of the Golden Core stage. Now he can choose 4 spells for free. It's really timely. However, there is no rush to choose the skills. He needs to settle down first, and then wait until the banquet is held in 3 days, and then find time to go to the library. At this time, Wei Hong thought to himself, from now on, Kangshan's Henren should indeed be seriously injured and still in seclusion. All matters in the city are in the charge of the city lord Lei Ling. According to Bidingmo, there are now 4 other giant and cultivators in the immortal city besides Lei Ling and him. One of them is also the deputy city lord, named Su Ziji, who is the 6th disciple of Kangshan's Henren. 2 of the remaining 3 giant and cultivators are also disciples of Kangshan's Henren. They just returned to the immortal city from outside 2 years ago. They are the 2 giant and cultivators who did not participate in the war. The last one is named Yang Yi, who is also the only remaining guest official. Counting me, there are now a total of 7 giant and cultivators in the immortal city. Wei Hong's mind flashed through some of the situations and information that Bidangmo had introduced to him before, and he also had a general understanding of the situation inside the immortal city. However, he did not take these things to heart, and was more concerned about how to practice next. He chose to join Kangshan Immortal City not for interpersonal relationships or to obtain a high position, but purely for obtaining more resources and a good cultivation environment so that he could cultivate better. Now that Wei Hong has joined the Immortal City, he has settled down. Next, he plans to spend some time to understand the situation in the city and figure out his responsibilities, and then select the exercises and start practicing well. Alice, why do we have to hold a welcome banquet? In fact, there is no need to be so high profile. City Lord Lei is pushing me to the forefront. When Wei Hong thought of the welcome banquet 3 days later, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. He wanted to be low-key and didn't want too many people to know about his existence. Who knew that City Lord Lei Ling would hold a welcome banquet, which was clearly an opportunity to announce to the world that Kangshan Immortal City is still the same Kangshan Immortal City, and there are still giant and cultivators who take the initiative to join, which is also releasing information to the major sects. In this way, Wei Hong will inevitably become the focus of many cultivators. He himself was not used to it, but he could not refuse the good intention of the city lord, and he also knew that this matter was very important to Kangshan Immortal City, so he agreed. Forget it, Don't think too much, just concentrate on practicing after the banquet. Wei Hong shook his head and suppressed the thoughts in his mind, and began to practice for the first time in this new cave. Chapter 907, Make Friends with Jinden. At the same time, just when Wei Hong had just settled down in the cave, the news that he had joined Kangshan Immortal City as a guest official spread throughout the city like wings. What? The Jinden stage senior who appeared outside the city before came to join our Kangshan Immortal City. I thought he was a bad person, but I didn't expect that he wanted to take the initiative to join our Immortal City. Haha, it seems that our Kangshan Immortal City is not like what the outside world says. With Kangshan's Henrin here, there will also be Jinden stage cultivators who will take the initiative to join us. Not bad, not bad. In this way, our Immortal City will have one more Jinden guest official. This is a great event. In the Immortal City, after hearing about this, countless cultivators were delighted and talked about it crazily in the city. The big and small forces in the Immortal City were also shocked. They didn't expect that under such a situation, someone would take the initiative to join us. This is definitely the most explosive news in recent times, so that all major forces couldn't help but send people to inquire about the information of Wei Hong, the new guest official. For a time, the new guest Mu Bai directly became the subject of discussion within the entire Kangshan Immortal City. Countless cultivators were curious about what kind of person this new guest was. At this time, the city lord's mansion also announced that a banquet would be held in 3 days to welcome the arrival of the new guest. After hearing this news, many forces immediately mobilized their connections to get an invitation to the banquet. At this time, there were actually many large and small forces in Kangshan Immortal City, such as some Jinden families, or some small and medium-sized chambers of commerce and some special organizations. These forces were like vines attached to the big tree of Kangshan Immortal City, and they had to rely on Kangshan Immortal City to survive well. Therefore, they all wanted to make friends with Wei Hong, the new guest. For a time, the entire Kangshan Immortal City suddenly became more lively. 3 days later, Wei Hong didn't know that the city had been discussing his affairs during this period. He had been staying in the cave to meditate and practice for the past 3 days. After all, he had just become a guest official of the Immortal City, and now was not the time to show off. When the banquet came, Lei Ling, who he should know, would be introduced to him, so he was not in a hurry. Seeing that today was the day for the banquet, Wei Hong came out of the practice room. He washed up a little, changed into a green robe, calculated the time, and opened the door of the cave to go to the city lord's mansion. But when he opened the door, he saw that a beautiful beast carriage had been parked at the door. I greet the guest official, the deputy city lord ordered me to wait for you here. At this time, a young driver sitting in front of the beast carriage immediately greeted Wei Hong with a flattering smile. Wei Hong did not seem to be surprised, but just nodded lightly and said, "Let's go." "Okay, please get in the car." The young driver immediately opened the door and put down a short ladder. Wei Hong walked into the beast carriage along the short ladder. After the driver put away the short ladder and closed the door, he immediately drove the beast carriage to the city lord's mansion. After a while, the beast carriage stopped, and then the young driver's respectful voice rang out, "Sir, we have arrived at the city lord's mansion." Upon hearing this, Wei Hong immediately got off the beast carriage, nodded slightly to the young driver, and walked towards the city lord's mansion. At this time, Bidangmo, who had been waiting here for a long time, immediately came up with bright eyes. "Haha, fellow Taoist Mu is finally here." Wei Hong bowed to Bidangmo and said, "Haha, fellow Taoist Bidang, am I not late?" "Of course not." Bidangmo smiled and waved his hands, then pulled Wei Hong and said, "Fellow Taoist Mu is just in time, let's go in together." "Okay." Wei Hong smiled and agreed. At this time, he saw that not only was a thick red carpet laid at the entrance of the city lord's mansion, but there were also 2 rows of beautiful young maids standing on both sides of the red carpet. Seeing Wei Hong's arrival, the maids immediately bowed and shouted, "Hello, guest official." Wei Hong also smiled and nodded, and walked into the city lord's mansion with Bidangmo. Led by Bidangmo, the 2 of them soon arrived at a spacious, exquisite and luxurious hall. At this time, the hall was brightly lit, and many monks had gathered. There were also a large number of maids walking back and forth in it, providing guests with various spiritual wines and delicacies. Seeing Bidangmo and Wei Hong walking into the hall, many people's eyes lit up immediately. "Haha, this is our new guest Mu Dao of Xiansheng, right?" I have already met Dao in Liancheng. But the guest master is in person? Junior Wang Huanshan says Hang of the Zhu family has met you. Haha, Dao Mu, you are finally here. Su has long wanted to meet Dao. Hello, Senior Mu. Junior Hong Kishan has admired you for a long time. Today I have the opportunity to meet you. You are indeed handsome and imposing. Many monks in the hall gathered around at this time and greeted Wei Hong enthusiastically. Wei Hong didn't know any of them at this time, but facing these enthusiastic monks, he could only smile and bow to all around, not daring to neglect anyone. Fortunately, Bidang Mo stood up at this time. He stretched out his hand to stop them, and then said, "Okay, don't worry, Brother Mu hasn't sat down yet. I will introduce you one by one later. You should have a drink and wait for a while." Seeing that Bidang Mo had spoken, the monks around him no longer gathered in a circle, but dispersed and returned to their seats. Just like Bidang Mo said, there was no need to rush to get to know Wei Hong. He would definitely introduce them one by one later, and they just wanted to get to know each other first. After sending away the monks around, Bidang Mo turned to look at Wei Hong and said with a smile, "Haha, don't blame me, Taoist friend Mu. The Taoist friends present just want to make friends with you. After all, Taoist friend, you are now the most popular in our fairy city." Wei Hong looked a little helpless, but he didn't care. He smiled and said, "Haha, it's my honor to be welcomed by Taoist friends. Haha, come on, let's take a seat first." After the city lord and other Taoist friends arrive, the banquet will start immediately. Bidang Mo pulled Wei Hong and walked into the hall. Soon, the two of them came to the deepest part of the hall. There were hundreds of black wooden tables here, each of which was 6 feet long and 3 feet wide. There was a gilded wooden chair behind the wooden table, which looked very luxurious. These wooden tables were divided into 6 rows vertically, 3 rows on the left and right. In addition to the 6 rows of wooden tables, there was also a red wooden table more than 10 feet long at the top, which was obviously reserved for the city lord Lei Ling. Bidang Mo pulled Wei Hong to the 5th and 6th wooden tables in the first row on the left, and said to Wei Hong with a smile, "Dao Mu, come, let's sit here." Chapter 908 The Foundation of the Immortal City. Okay. Wei Hong had no objection and agreed with a smile. Then he walked directly to the back of the 6th wooden table and sat down leisurely. Seeing this, Bidang Mo also smiled slightly and sat down at the wooden table in front of him. Wei Hong smiled and asked at this time, "Dao Bidang, your seat should not be here, right?" The reason why he asked this was because he had already figured out why the seats were arranged. He is now the new guest official of Xiancheng and one of the 7 Jinden cultivators. Apart from the city lord who has to sit in the first place, there are still 6 Jinden cultivators left, so it is reasonable for him to sit at the 6th wooden table on the left. However, Bidang Mo is the deputy city lord and holds a high position. According to reason, he should not sit in the position in front of him, so Wei Hong teased him. Bidang Mo waved his hand and smiled, "Hey, it doesn't matter where you sit. It's better to sit next to Dao Mu. It's just right for us to get close." "Haha, that's really an honor from you." Wei Hong responded with a big laugh. But he already knew in his heart that Bidang Mo wanted to deepen his relationship with his new guest. The two chatted casually, waiting for the banquet to begin. Soon, the sound of stringed instruments suddenly rang out in the hall. At this time, the entire hall was already full of various monks. The city lord Lei Ling just walked in when the music sounded, and strode towards the red wooden table at the top. "Meet the city lord." Seeing Lei Ling appear, all the monks who were sitting behind the wooden table stood up and greeted him. Lei Ling laughed and pressed his hands. "Haha, everyone, you don't have to be polite, please take a seat." After that, he went directly behind the huge red wooden table. However, Lei Ling did not sit down immediately at this time, but continued, "Today's banquet is to welcome fellow Taoist Mu Bai to join us. Fellow Taoist Mu is now serving as a guest official of our immortal city, and will be a part of the immortal city in the future, so fellow Taoist Mu is the protagonist of today. Haha, fellow Taoist Mu, come on, let all of you Taoists get to know each other well." Hearing this, Wei Hong stood up from his seat, clasped his fists, and greeted the cultivators around him. "I am Mu Bai. I am really humbled to be trusted by fellow Taoist Lei and fellow Taoist Bidang to serve as the new guest official of the immortal city. It is also my great honor to meet you all today. I meet all of you Taoists, and I hope you will take care of me in the future." It was just a polite remark, and Wei Hong naturally would not be stage fright. After hearing Wei Hong's words, everyone present responded, "Haha, Master Keking is really polite. You should take care of us in the future." Yes, it is fate that Senior Mu can join the Immortal City. It is our honor to meet fellow Taoist Mu today. Haha, fellow Taoist Mu is too modest. We are all working for the Immortal City. We will be a family in the future. Various welcome and complimenting responses rang out, and the cultivators present also saw Wei Hong's appearance clearly. No matter what these people thought in their hearts, they could only show a welcoming attitude at this moment. Wei Hong also smiled slightly, and bowed to the surroundings again before sitting down again. Seeing this, Lei Ling raised his hand to signal. For a while, the music sounded loud, and hundreds of maids came in with trays, serving various fine wines and delicacies to each cultivator who attended the banquet. At the same time, dozens of beautiful dancers danced in the hall. The scene was really pleasing to the eye. Lei Ling sat down at this time, and then picked up a glass of fine wine that the maid next to him had already poured, and said loudly, "Everyone, this first glass of wine, let's toast to fellow Taoist Mu. Welcome fellow Taoist Mu to join us." Haha, good, toast to fellow Taoist Mu. Yes, toast to Senior Mu. Come on, let's toast to the guests together. Everyone present raised their glasses to signal Wei Hong. Wei Hong naturally raised his glass with a smile, and then drank it all. Everyone cheered and drank the fine wine in their glasses. After putting down the glass, Lei Ling looked at Wei Hong again and said to him, "Fellow Taoist Mu, you have just joined the Immortal City, and you should not know the fellow Taoists present here yet. Come on, let me introduce you. This is Lei's junior brother Su Ziji, who is now the Deputy City Lord. You can get closer to him in the future." Lei Ling introduced to Wei Hong the middle-aged cultivator sitting in the first seat on the left, who was his junior brother Su Ziji. Seeing this, Wei Hong immediately stood up and clasped his fists and said, "Mu Dao Su, I hope you can take care of me in the future." As one of Kangshan's Henren's disciples and a deputy city lord, Su Ziji was not arrogant at all. He also stood up and smiled kindly, "Haha, Dao Mu, you don't have to be polite. We will be a family in the future. We will all work for the Immortal City. There is no need to take care of me. By the way, this is Su's gift and also my meeting gift." After saying that, Su Ziji took out a square jade box, used his magic power to gently lift it, and came directly in front of Wei Hong. Seeing this, Wei Hong hesitated a little. "This, Dao Su is really polite. I appreciate your kindness. There is no need for a meeting gift, right? How can I let Dao spend money? Haha, it's just a meeting gift. Dao Mu, just accept it." Su Ziji laughed and waved his hand, letting Wei Hong accept it with confidence. Seeing this, Wei Hong knew that it was not good to refuse the kindness of others, so he could only nod and accept it, and then smiled. "In this case, then Mu will accept it with a thick face. Thank you, fellow Taoist Su." Haha, good. Seeing Wei Hong accept the gift, Su Ziji smiled and sat down. Then, Lei Ling pointed to the cultivator behind the second wooden table and introduced, "Mu Taoist, this is also Lei's junior brother, named Song Lin, now serving as the head of the refining pavilion." Wei Hong did not sit down. Hearing this, he directly bowed to Song Lin and said, "So it's fellow Taoist Song, Mu is polite." Song Lin also stood up and clasped his fists. "Haha, fellow Taoist Mu is polite. Fellow Taoist can join our Immortal City, so we will be a family in the future. We should get closer in the future. Here, this is Song's gift. I hope fellow Taoist Mu will not refuse it." After that, another jade box was placed on the wooden table in front of Wei Hong. Obviously, the giant and cultivators in Kangshan Immortal City had a lot of good feelings towards Wei Hong for choosing to join them at this time, so at this welcome banquet, they also prepared a welcome gift for each of them. Since Wei Hong had already accepted the first one, he would naturally not refuse the second one, so he smiled and said, "Haha, okay, thank you for your kindness, brother Song." He did not check the two jade boxes immediately, but directly put them into the storage bag. Then Lei Ling continued to introduce the cultivators present to him, and each cultivator also presented a welcome gift. Chapter 909 Kunlun 9 Yanguang. 7 days later. In front of the library. 7 days had passed since the banquet. After the banquet, Wei Hong did not immediately have some free time. Instead, he received invitations from many cultivators, including Su Ziji, Sung Lin and others, as well as major forces in the city, all of whom wanted to deepen their relationship with Wei Hong. Wei Hong naturally could not accept all of them, but he could not refuse all of them either, so he picked a few important invitations to accept, such as Su Ziji and Song Lin, and another Jinden guest official. After getting to know each of these people, he finally had some peace. Today, he came to the library to select suitable techniques and spells. He had been looking forward to the Jinden spells for a long time. I hope I can find the right techniques, Wei Hong thought to himself, and then he walked into the library. The old man was still waiting at the door. After Wei Hong entered the library, he gently released a trace of Jinden aura before the old man asked, and he also had the identity token tied around his waist. After sensing that hint of golden elixir aura, the old man seemed to be suddenly frightened. He hurriedly took 3 steps at a time to come to Wei Hong, then bowed his head and saluted. I am Feng Hui, an old man, greeting you, senior. I didn't know you were here. I hope you will forgive me. The old man didn't know Wei Hong's identity, and he had never met Wei Hong before, but the golden elixir aura could definitely not be faked, so he didn't dare to be negligent in the slightest. Wei Hong took out his identity token and handed it over, then said, I want to read the techniques and spells above the earth rank. Where can I go to read them? After seeing the identity token, the old man Feng Hui's face became more respectful. He said respectfully, so you are a guest. If you want to read the techniques above the earth rank, you need to go to the 3rd floor to check. There is a ban in front of the entrance to the 3rd floor. You can use the identity token to open the ban and enter. In addition, the city lord has already told me that you can exchange 2 techniques and 4 spells for free. The grade is at the upper earth rank and below. You can bring them down to me after you choose them. After getting the answer, Wei Hong nodded gently and said, okay, thank you. After that, with the old man Feng Hui's farewell, he went directly to the stairs leading to the 3rd floor, ready to find a technique that suits him. When he walked to the entrance of the 3rd floor, there was indeed a ban. Wei Hong took out his identity token and shook it gently, and then he opened a passage in the restriction in front of him. He walked straight into it and found that he had come to a hall with an area of only several dozen feet wide. Hey, the area of the 3rd floor is much smaller than that of the 1st floor. Wei Hong was slightly surprised and began to look around. At this time, he found that there were only 5 wooden racks on the 3rd floor, which was many times less than that of the 1st floor, so the space on the 3rd floor was also reduced a lot. So that's it. Wei Hong's eyes flashed with a hint of understanding, and then he said to himself, the skills and secrets that can be stored on the 3rd floor should have reached the earth level, so the number is much less, which is normal. Thinking of this in his heart, he soon came to the first wooden rack. The entire wooden rack is divided into 4 layers, and there are 10 jade slips on each layer. Each jade slip is protected by a layer of milky white light cover. Next to the light cover is a palm-sized nameplate, which briefly introduces the information recorded in those jade slips. Wei Hong was already familiar with this. He took out his identity token and swiped it gently. The light shield in front was directly opened, revealing the jade slip inside. He reached out and picked up the jade slip, and directly put it between his eyebrows to start checking. The lower grade Kunlun 9 Yanggong of the earth rank. After Wei Hong saw the contents of the jade slip clearly, he immediately murmured in his heart. He quickly checked the contents of the jade slip and found that, as before, each jade slip only recorded an outline and a small part of the content, and it was necessary to exchange it in order to get the complete technique. The jade slip recorded a lower grade earth rank technique called Kunlun 9 Yanggong. This is a fire attributed technique, which is not suitable for him. This technique is quite powerful, and the fire attribute is also known for its violent attacks, but unfortunately it is not suitable for me. Wei Hong gently put down the jade slip, allowing the milky white light shield to return to its original state. What he needed was a wood attributed technique, and other attribute techniques would not be of much use no matter how good they were. But this time the city lord promised me that I can choose 2 techniques for free. In addition to the main technique, I can consider practicing one more technique with special effects, or a body refining technique. Wei Hong thought to himself, and began to consider what technique to practice. Now that he has the opportunity to choose a technique for free, he will naturally not let it go. If he wants to exchange it later, he will need a large number of merit points. He took a look and saw the merit points required to exchange for Kunlun 9 Yanggong on the nameplate next to him. Tisk, 1 million merit points to exchange? This is still a low-grade Earth level technique. What if it is a high-grade Earth level technique? Wei Hong smiled bitterly and shook his head. In his heart, he once again felt that his choice to stay in the Immortal City was wise. If it were not for this time, according to what the city lord Lei Ling said, he could only have the opportunity to choose one technique for free, and at most he could only choose a middle-grade Earth level technique, which was too different from the current treatment. Moreover, he had learned from a casual chat with another giant and guest official, Yang Yi, that under normal circumstances, when the Immortal City needed to dispatch these guests, they would normally be given about 10,000 merit points after each mission, and sometimes no more than 50,000. In this way, if you want to exchange this lower-grade Kunlun 9 Yanggong, you need to go on missions at least 20 times, and even more than 100 times, so that you can accumulate enough merit points to exchange for the skills. It seems that this skill above the Earth level is indeed extremely expensive. Fortunately, I chose the right one this time. Otherwise, it would be a fool's dream to choose an extra skill in 2 spells. If I accumulate them by myself, it may take decades to accumulate them. Wei Hong sighed lightly, suppressed his thoughts, and began to check other jade slips. Heng Yu Qi Shajing, Yin Yang Yan Leiju, Kang Hai Ji Ui Yuanju, Ju Xing Lian Shanguang, Zhuan Wu Zhen Shaju, Liu Zhen Yu Gong. One after another, the secret manuals of the techniques above the Earth level were presented in front of Wei Hong, making him itch. Huh? Wei Hong took a long breath, put down the jade slip in his hand, and said with emotion, "It is worthy of being a powerful force. It has collected so many Earth-level techniques. If any of these techniques are leaked to the outside world, it will attract countless cultivators to scramble for them, and even cause a bloody storm." These powerful secret manuals made Wei Hong want to take them all. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 910, The Green Emperor's Longevity Technique. Unfortunately, I can only choose 2 at most. Wei Hong sighed softly, but he was not disappointed. Being able to choose 2 Earth-level top-grade exercises for free was already a good opportunity. The exercises he had just checked were all very good, but he had not found a wood-attributed exercise suitable for him to practice. Wood-attributed exercise? Hey, I found it. Wei Hong glanced and saw the nameplate next to it was written Green Emperor Longevity Exercise. Hey, a wood-attributed exercise of the Earth-level top grade. Wei Hong was slightly happy, and immediately opened the light shield and picked up the jade slip. He immersed his consciousness in the jade slip and began to carefully check this exercise. This time he checked for a quarter of an hour, and then slowly opened his eyes. It is indeed a top-grade Earth-level technique, and it is really good. Wei Hong held the jade slip in his hand and did not put it down immediately, muttering, "This Green Emperor Longevity technique is not only much more powerful than the Green Light Sword technique I practiced before, but also has the special effects of restoring physical strength, magic power and injuries, and can control plants, enhance senses and body structure. It is really a rare and powerful technique. The Green Emperor Longevity technique recorded in this jade slip is very powerful, and it can have many special effects after practicing. This is also the most powerful wood-attributed technique he has seen so far, without a doubt." Wei Hong's eyes flickered slightly, but he did not rush to make a decision immediately. He took the jade slip in his hand and began to check other jade slips. He wanted to compare them to see if there was a more suitable technique. An hour later, Wei Hong walked out of the library with a calm face and soon returned to his cave. After returning to the practice room and sitting cross-legged, he took out 3 jade slips from the storage bag. Looking at the 3 jade slips in front of him, he immediately smiled with satisfaction. "Haha, not bad, not bad. This time I can get a technique and 3 spells, which is enough for me to practice for a while." Wei Hong selected for a long time, and then exchanged a top-grade Earth-level Green Emperor Longevity technique and 3 Earth-level spells from the library. The 3 Earth-level spells are the top-grade Earth-level Divine Tree Strangling technique, and the middle-grade Earth-level Wooden Prison Imprisonment technique and Green Branch Healing Spirit technique. With the techniques and spells, after he successfully practices, he can not only increase his own strength, but also have more means to fight against the enemy, so that he will not be like before without even a decent giant in stage spell. Thinking of this, Wei Hong picked up the first jade slip and examined it carefully again. The Green Emperor's Longevity Art, a top-grade Earth-level art, has many characteristics and is divided into 9 levels. The lush green trees reflect the green light, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth attracts all directions. The meridians flow and converge in the Danshan, gathering the spirit into a cyclone. The mind is filled with thoughts of the universe, and the body is nourished by vigorous vitality. With thoughts as the guide and the heart controlling, the branches and leaves crisscross the void. The wood spirits communicate with the mind and the divine power, changing into thousands of forms without a trace. The general outline of the practice of the Green Emperor's longevity art and various practice formulas kept emerging in Wei Hong's mind, and then they were all imprinted in his mind. This art is divided into 9 levels in total, and can be practiced from the early stage of the Golden Core to the early stage of the God Transformation. Each level corresponds to a small realm. For example, the early stage of the Golden Core can only practice the first level, and if you want to practice the second level, you must first break through to the middle stage of the Golden Core. Wei Hong's mind has been immersed in the jade slip. After more than 2 hours, he slowly took out the jade slip and opened his eyes. He exhaled lightly, and then a trace of satisfaction appeared on his face, and he murmured, "It is indeed a top-grade Earth-level technique. It is indeed complicated and profound. If I rely on my own understanding and practice, it may take at least 2 years to get started. The top-grade Earth-level techniques are far more complicated and profound than the King Guang sword technique." Wei Hong read it carefully and found that if he wanted to get started, he would need to spend a lot of time studying. Fortunately, he had vitality points to assist in his practice. At this time, the system also sent a prompt, Ling. The first level of the top-grade Earth-level technique King Di Cheng Sheng Guang was successfully included. The current proficiency is entry level, 1/5000, just the first level of the technique. 5,000 vitality points are required to get started. Wei Hong dared not imagine how many vitality points would be needed to upgrade all 9 levels of the technique to the ultimate realm. It was simply a huge amount. He didn't know where to collect so many vitality points. After returning to the world of immortal cultivation, he couldn't find a suitable place to collect vitality points. Moreover, with his current cultivation level, the vitality points he could get by killing monsters below the Jinden stage were very pitiful, at most only 100 points, or even only dozens of points. If he wanted to accumulate 10,000 vitality points, he would need to kill at least 100 monsters at the peak of the foundation building stage. Thinking of this, Wei Hong couldn't help but smile bitterly. Forget it, I'll think about the vitality point issue later. Now I'll change the skills first. Wei Hong suppressed his thoughts and prepared to start changing the skills. The King Guang sword art of this one level was not enough to satisfy him. Now that he had obtained the King Di Cheng Sheng Guang of the Earth level, he naturally had to practice it as soon as possible, so that his strength could be improved as soon as possible. But before changing the skills, he still picked up the other 3 jade slips to check them out first. These 3 Jinden stage spells will be one of his important means to fight against the enemy in the future. 2 hours later, the system sent a continuous reminder sound, Ling. The top-grade Earth-level spell Shenmue Strangling Technique was successfully recorded, and the current proficiency is entry level, 1/5000, Ling. The middle-grade Earth-level spell Wooden Prison Imprisonment Technique was successfully recorded, and the current proficiency is entry level, 1/5000, Ling. The middle-grade Earth-level spell Green Branch Healing Spirit Technique was successfully recorded, and the current proficiency is entry level, 1/5000. All 3 spells have been recorded, but unfortunately Wei Hong does not have enough vitality points to improve his realm. In the secret realm before, he had to consume some vitality points every once in a while to replenish his lifespan, and he also consumed more than 20,000 vitality points to upgrade Sword Shadow Spectroscopy Technique to the Great Accomplishment realm, so the remaining vitality points are less than 20,000 points. Wei Hong no longer dared to use these 20,000 vitality points easily, fearing that he would not have enough vitality points when he needed them. I should save my vitality points, but I need to use some of them now. Wei Hong made a decision in his heart, and then decisively invested more than 10,000 vitality points in the new practice of Green Emperor Longevity Art. Ling. The proficiency of the Earth-level top-grade practice Green Emperor Longevity Art plus 5,000. The current proficiency is Mastery, 1/8000, Ling. The proficiency of the Earth-level top-grade practice Green Emperor Longevity Art plus 8,000. The current proficiency is Minor Success, 1/10000. Chapter 911, Change the Practice Method. A lot of insights and experiences about practicing the King Di Cheng Shenguang began to pour into Wei Hong's mind. Wei Hong immediately took a practice posture, then closed his eyes tightly, and began to absorb and digest the various information that kept pouring into his mind. The mana in his body began to operate subconsciously according to the practice route of the King Di Cheng Shenguang. Buzz! His body shook slightly. This practice route seemed a bit unfamiliar, but after the mana in his danchin started to operate, there was nothing wrong. Instead, it made his body and mind feel extremely comfortable. As Wei Hong continued to digest the various insights and practice experiences that poured into his mind, the mana in his body also operated faster and faster. At this time, the abundant spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the cave began to rush towards the practice room. Wei Hong's body was like a bottomless pit, constantly absorbing waves of spiritual energy from heaven and earth into his body, and then it was quickly refined by the running mana, and after refining, it was directly integrated into the mana, allowing the mana to slowly grow a little. At this moment, the root of the practice method running in his body had already been completely changed to the King Di Cheng Shenguang. As for the traces of the previous green light sword art, they slowly dissipated as the magic power was circulated over and over again. After more than an hour, Wei Hong had digested all the various cultivation experiences and insights in his mind. However, he did not open his eyes immediately, but continued to keep the Green Emperor longevity art running. Because what he had to do now was to change the practice method. Only by thoroughly practicing this new Green Emperor longevity art could he further improve his strength and have a stronger foundation. 3 days later. During these 3 days, Wei Hong stayed in the practice room without leaving. The next moment, his eyes suddenly opened, and a green light burst out of his eyes, and a strong aura also spread in the practice room. Huh? Wei Hong exhaled lightly, and then said with a hint of emotion, "Finally, the technique has been completely transformed. It is worthy of being a top-grade technique of the earth level. It is indeed not comparable to ordinary techniques." After the technique was successfully transformed, at this moment, the color of the mana in his danchin was still green, but it was darker than when he practiced a King Guang sword technique before, and it directly turned into dark green. Moreover, his mana at this time was at least 50% more powerful than before, which was equivalent to making his strength soar out of thin air. The most important thing is that after practicing the King Di Cheng Shenguang, the mana is not only much stronger, but also as easy as using one's arm. With just one thought, the mana can be mobilized immediately, which is really very flexible. Wei Hong's mind moved, and his consciousness fell into the danchin. At this time, inside his danchin, a round golden pill the size of a walnut was spinning gently above the danchin. Every time it rotated, it could absorb some spiritual energy from the outside into the body, and below the golden pill, the majestic mana was like a vast green ocean. After his consciousness had inspected his danchin, he observed his body inside and out. Soon, Wei Hong opened his eyes again, and then murmured with a little surprise, "So this is the change brought about by practicing the King Di Cheng Shenguang. It seems that I did not make a wrong choice in this method." After practicing the King Di Cheng Shenguang, he felt that his physique and senses had been greatly enhanced, and his mana was running faster. This is obviously a feature of this method, that is, the speed of mana recovery is much faster than other methods. Moreover, the King Di Cheng Shenguang is a wood-attributed method, which has the characteristics of healing and self-healing. However, these characteristics need to be tested later, and there is not much effect now. Haha, not bad, not bad. After changing the technique, my overall strength has indeed increased a lot. It's right to stay in the Immortal City. Wei Hong was overjoyed. After changing to practice the Green Emperor's longevity technique, his strength improvement was actually only a secondary matter. The main thing was that this technique had reached the upper level of the earth rank. After practicing it, it would undoubtedly make his foundation even deeper, so that he could go further on the road to immortality. What's more, he still had a technique and a spell that had not yet been exchanged. After he found the second technique that suited his practice, maybe he could make his strength soar again, so that he could have a crushing momentum among the same level. Unfortunately, although I already have the techniques and spells, I lack magic weapons and secret techniques. My foundation is still insufficient. If I encounter a stronger monster or the disciples of those big sects, I might be tied up. Wei Hong thought of this and couldn't help but sigh softly. Although he now has 2 magic weapons, they are not suitable for his own use, Because the two magic weapons taken from Huang Fugang are not wood-attributed magic weapons, not to mention that they are only at the level of the 3rd grade lower grade, which is completely beyond his eyes. Therefore, Wei Hong has always lacked a suitable magic weapon. It is just that he has just left the secret realm not long ago, and it is normal that he has not yet collected enough materials to refine magic weapons. Don't be anxious about this. First, I need to think carefully about what kind of magic weapon to refine. Second, I also need to collect more materials, even materials with a grade of the 3rd grade middle grade or above. These cannot be completed in a short time. Although Wei Hong felt a little sorry for not having a magic weapon that suits him, he did not intend to refine a magic weapon in a hurry. Now that he has just switched to practicing the technique, the magic weapon he refines in the future must also be in line with the Green Emperor longevity technique so that his strength can be fully exerted. This is why every giant and cultivator will collect materials and refine magic weapons by himself. Wei Hong now has a few pieces of 3rd grade inferior ore, but he is not satisfied with refining 3rd grade inferior magic weapons. Instead, he wants to go a step further, or even reach the goal in one step. It would be the best if he could refine a 3rd grade superior magic weapon or above. After reaching the Jinden stage, although magic weapons are also divided into grades, there is no restriction on sacrifice and refining. As long as this condition is met, cultivators in the early Jinden stage can also refine 3rd grade superior or even 3rd grade extreme magic weapons, thereby gaining stronger strength. However, the higher the grade of the magic weapon, the more mana is needed to support it, and it also consumes divine consciousness to control the magic weapon, so it is not that a high-grade magic weapon is suitable for every cultivator. This requires selection based on one's own situation. Moreover, the higher the grade of the magic weapon, the corresponding grade of materials are required to refine it. It is already good for an ordinary giant and cultivator to refine a 3rd grade inferior magic weapon. To refine a 3rd grade medium grade or above magic weapon, perhaps a giant and cultivator may not be able to do it even if he spends all his money. Chapter 912 Exchange Permissions. When a cultivator is promoted to the Jinden stage, the factors that determine his own strength have changed. Normally, the strength of a Jinden stage cultivator should be comprehensively judged by the 4 aspects of realm, magic weapon, spiritual consciousness and magic. Now Wei Hong's realm is only the 1st level of Jinden, which is needless to say. He does not have a magic weapon, which needs to be strengthened. As for spiritual consciousness, it can basically reach twice that of the cultivators of the same level, which can completely achieve a crushing momentum, which is also a major advantage of him. The magic is divided into ordinary magic and secret magic. For example, the life-threatening secret art that Huang Fugang used before is a kind of secret art, which is a means to greatly enhance strength. Wei Hong now lacks not only magic weapons, but also life-threatening secret arts. Unfortunately, the Immortal City has not yet opened the exchange restrictions for secret arts to me. He sighed slightly in his heart, but he also understood it very well. Although he has indeed joined the Immortal City as a guest official and has been welcomed by the City Lord and others, because he has just arrived and has never been truly tested, the City Lord Lei Ling and others do not have absolute trust in him and are obviously still on guard. The fact that he has not been allowed to exchange secret techniques is actually a clear proof. This is probably because they are afraid that he will be exposed to too many core things at once. Wei Hong understands very well and has no complaints in his heart. Stay in the Immortal City first, and wait until you have accumulated more merit points before exchanging secret techniques. Wei Hong believes that after a long time, he will be able to prove that he has absolutely no second thoughts about the Immortal City. In this way, the City Lord Lei Ling and others will naturally release the restrictions on him and no longer be on guard against him. At that time, exchanging secret techniques will not be a problem. However, although secret techniques can be exchanged by slowly accumulating merit points, refining magic weapons requires collecting various materials. If you want to refine magic weapons, you need to collect materials, and if you want to collect materials, you need a lot of high-quality spirit stones. Thinking of this, Wei Hong couldn't help but feel a headache. Because his wealth was not rich, he did not have so many high-grade spirit stones to collect and buy materials. Not only did he lack high-grade spirit stones, he also did not have the elixir suitable for his current realm. Moreover, he wanted to buy the 3rd-level formation and elixir formula. All these resources required a large amount of high-grade spirit stones to buy. Spirit stones, Everything needs spirit stones, but I just became a guest official and have not been in the golden elixir realm for a long time. If I want to earn high-grade spirit stones, it seems that there is no way. Wei Hong felt more and more headache as he thought about it, and began to think carefully about how to earn spirit stones. Without the support of spirit stones, it would take a lot of time for him to make further progress in his cultivation. This was not the result he wanted to see, so he had to find a way to earn more spirit stones. Those spiritual flowers, herbs and monster materials collected in the secret realm before can be considered for sale, but they must be released slowly in batches, and must not be taken out all at once, so as to avoid suspicion from those who are interested. Also, those herbs and monster materials are basically only of the second tier. Even if they are sold, they can only get medium-grade spiritual stones at most. Even those natural treasures that are helpful for forming pills, I am afraid that even if they are sold, they will not be able to obtain too many high-grade spiritual stones. Besides that, I don't seem to have anything on hand that can be exchanged for spiritual stones. Relying on the annual salary alone, I am afraid that I can't even support the pills needed for cultivation every month. Wei Hong sighed slightly in his heart, but couldn't think of a better way for a while. After reaching the golden core stage, these high-level cultivators basically use high-grade spiritual stones as the basic currency. Daily cultivation and meditation to restore mana, etc., also use high-grade spiritual stones. He is not clear about the price of resources such as third-tier pills and formations, and needs to ask carefully and compare them before he can understand them. But there is one thing in common, that is, they all need high-grade spiritual stones to buy. Forget it, I may not be able to figure it out by myself, so I might as well ask someone. Wei Hong shook his head helplessly, and suddenly an idea came to his mind, and then he muttered to himself, there are only 2 Jinden guests in the city now, so why not go to ask fellow Taoist Yang Yi? After this idea came up, he could no longer suppress it. The more Wei Hong thought about it, the more feasible it seemed. After all, it was just asking a few questions, and everyone could deepen their relationship with each other, so there was no need to be shy about anything. Thinking of this, he couldn't wait any longer, and immediately got up and went to the cave where Yang Yi was, ready to ask a question. Soon, he arrived at the door of Yang Yi's cave. Whoosh! A sound transmission talisman shot out from Wei Hong's hand and came to the outside of the gate. The formation outside the gate immediately discovered the appearance of the sound transmission talisman, and soon a magical power took the sound transmission talisman in. After a moment, the door of the cave in front of him burst open. Haha, it turns out that it is Brother Mu Taoist who has come to visit. It really makes my humble home shine. Brother Mu Taoist, please come in quickly. I am sorry for not welcoming you. After the door was opened, Yang Yi strode out from inside, and greeted Wei Hong with a big smile. Seeing Yang Yi appear, Wei Hong immediately clasped his hands and said, Haha, Brother Yang Taoist, I came uninvited. Please don't blame me for disturbing you. Haha, Brother Mu Taoist, what are you talking about? I can't wait to welcome you. Come on, please come in. After Yang Yi walked out of the door, he immediately opened the formation and pulled Wei Hong into the cave. After the banquet ended before, Yang Yi had also invited him to come here for tea and chat, and exchange cultivation experiences. Wei Hong, with the intention of making friends, and considering that Yang Yi was the only remaining Jinden guest official, he readily accepted the invitation, and the two of them became familiar with each other. Now that he came again, he naturally showed a sense of familiarity. Yang Yi welcomed Wei Hong into the courtyard and sat down in the pavilion in the courtyard. Without Yang Yi's instructions, 2 young maids immediately served them a cup of spiritual tea. Haha, Brother Yang is so lucky. Wei Hong picked up the teacup and glanced at the maid who retreated to the side, and smiled and teased. Yang Yi waved his hand nonchalantly and said, Hey, what kind of blessing is this? It's all provided by the Immortal City. It's Brother Mu who didn't seem to leave any maids. This makes Yang admire him. Fellow Taoist Yang, don't laugh at me. Wei Hong gently put down the teacup, and then explained, It's just that Mu was a casual cultivator before, and I was used to being alone. What's more, I don't need to be served by others, so I didn't leave any maids. Hearing this, Yang Yi laughed and said, Haha, Brother Mu is such a hard-working person. Yang really admires him. Chapter 913 Asking for Advice and Solutions. After the greetings, Wei Hong went straight to the point. He looked at Yang Yi with a serious expression and said, Dao Yang, I came here to ask you something. I hope you don't mind. Yang Yi had naturally seen that Wei Hong came for something, so he was not surprised and responded directly, Dao Mu, just say it directly. It would be too polite to say that you mind. I will tell you everything I know. To be honest, Yang Yi had no resistance to Wei Hong, the new guest official, and no rejection, because Yang Yi had no conflict of interest with him. Even if there were a few more guest officials in Xiancheng, Yang Yi's interests would not be affected much. Therefore, he was really willing to make friends with Wei Hong. Wei Hong pondered for a moment, and then asked directly, to be honest with fellow Taoist Yang, I actually want to ask, after serving as a guest official in the Immortal City, besides the salary, do we have other ways to earn spirit stones? Of course, I am asking about open matters. If it involves fellow Taoist Yang's privacy, then just pretend I didn't ask. He hurriedly added at the end, fearing that he would cause Yang Yi to misunderstand. When Yang Yi heard the question, he burst into laughter. Haha, so fellow Taoist is asking about this. Fellow Taoist, you don't have to be so cautious. It's not something that cannot be spoken of. Seeing that Yang Yi did not misunderstand him, Wei Hong breathed a sigh of relief in his heart, and then replied with a slightly wry smile, Haha, I'm sorry to make you laugh, fellow Taoist Yang. It's true that Mu has just broken through to the Jinden stage not long ago, and I don't know much about the Immortal City, so I wanted to ask fellow Taoist Yang. However, this made Yang Yi become serious. He looked at Wei Hong seriously and said, Fellow Taoist Mu, there is no need to explain. In fact, Yang is also a casual cultivator. Naturally, I know how much hardship and effort we cultivators have endured to be able to cultivate to this point. How much resources a Jinden cultivator needs to make further progress in his cultivation. Therefore, Yang can fully understand fellow Taoist Mu's situation. I have even experienced this before. How can Yang have the qualifications to laugh at fellow Taoist? Dao Iao have just arrived, and these situations are only temporary. Even if you don't come to me today, someone will come to you soon, and your problem will be solved by then. Wei Hong saw Yang Yi's sincere attitude, his face became solemn, and he immediately bowed and said, In this case, I would like to ask Dao Iao Yang to give me some advice. Haha, no problem. Yang Yi quickly reached out to support Wei Hong, and then immediately answered, When I first came to Xiancheng as a guest official, I was also short of spirit stones, elixirs, and resources for cultivation like you. Later, I found another senior guest official and learned that, in fact, there are several ways for us Jinden cultivators to earn spirit stones after serving as guest officials, and the income is not bad. This income is the salary provided to us by Xiancheng. This salary is already a considerable asset for ordinary Jinden cultivators. When Wei Hong heard this, he also thought of the high salary that the city lord Lei Ling had specially offered him before, so he nodded unconsciously and said, That's right. If there is no such salary, Mu will be starving. Haha, not really. Yang Yi laughed and waved his hands, then continued to introduce, This second income, or the way to earn spirit stones, is actually very simple. That is to provide shelter to some small immortal cultivation families or some merchants in the Immortal City, and ensure that they will not be suppressed in exchange for compensation. This is also a good income. Huh? It can be like this. Wei Hong exclaimed in surprise at first, and then his eyes immediately lit up, and he immediately asked, Just now, fellow Taoist Yang said that someone will take the initiative to find Mu soon. Is this what you are talking about? Yang Yi nodded and smiled. Yes, the news that fellow Taoist Mu is now a guest official has spread. I believe that soon there will be many immortal cultivation families and some merchants with weak backgrounds who will take the initiative to find fellow Taoist. At that time, fellow Taoist can negotiate with them on their own. Such things are not unique in Xiancheng, nor are they new. Even several disciples of Kangshan's Henren have done similar things before, and there would be no problem at all, and Xiancheng would not ask about it. Wei Hong pondered secretly and asked again, Is there a limit on the number of people who can provide shelter? There is no limit. Yang Yi took a sip of tea slowly, and then continued, But too many is not good, it depends on your own decision. Generally speaking, we provide shelter to between 3 and 5 people. If you have more ideas, there is no problem. 3 to 5. When Wei Hong heard this number, his eyes flashed slightly, and he nodded and said, Okay, then I will take a look. If it is true as Yang Yi said, Being able to provide shelter to some immortal families or merchants and get a reward every year is indeed a high income, and it does not cost anything. Wei Hong also knew in his heart that this should be a very common thing. Take some small cultivation families for example. The highest level of cultivation in the family is only in the late stage of foundation building or the peak of foundation building. There is no giant and cultivator sitting in the family. Therefore, whether facing the suppression of other family forces or wanting to seek some benefits, they will be at a disadvantage because there is no giant and cultivator sitting in the family. In the long run, it will definitely be a devastating blow to a family. Without a stable income of spirit stones and various resources, a family cannot develop at all. Therefore, many immortal cultivation families will spend a lot of money to invite a giant and cultivator to serve as their family's offering in order to obtain more resources and benefits. Wei Hong was also very clear about the warning in Yang Yi's words, and naturally would not break the rules because of greed. Seeing this, Yang Yi also nodded, and then continued to introduce, this third way to earn spirit stones is actually related to the 4 arts of immortal cultivation. Alchemy? Refining. Wei Hong was a little confused. Yes, whether it's alchemy or refining equipment, or setting up formations and drawing talismans, as long as you are proficient in a skill, you can earn a lot of spirit stones. For example, alchemy. If fellow Taoist Mu is proficient in alchemy, even if he can only make 1 or 2 third-level low-grade elixirs, selling them will also bring in a lot of money. And you can also go to the Dang Wang Pavilion or the Refining Equipment Pavilion to accept tasks, and you can also have a good income after completing them. Yang Yi casually introduced several ways to earn spirit stones to Wei Hong. Yang Yi has been a guest official for decades, so he is naturally very clear about these things. At this time, he did not have any privacy to hide, but instead explained them to Wei Hong in detail. Chapter 914 16 Heavenly Armor Talisman. An hour later. After Wei Hong left Yang Yi, he went back to his cave. According to what Yang Yi said, it seems that after becoming a guest official, there are more ways to earn spirit stones. Wei Hong sat down leisurely and began to think. This time, after Yang Yi's suggestion, he finally learned the way to earn spirit stones. However, he still needs to think carefully about how to do it. At present, it seems that providing shelter for some chambers of commerce or immortal cultivation families should be the most appropriate choice. This is both safe and does not require any cost. Just need to investigate it carefully. Also, the skills of alchemy, talisman drawing and formation cannot be left behind. You must first buy some third-level alchemy formulas, talismans and formations, and strive to improve your skills as soon as possible. Now the Immortal City has just paid me a year's salary, which can be used to buy alchemy formulas and talismans. I will go out and take a look when I have time tomorrow. Wei Hong's thoughts turned rapidly, and he began to think about his next arrangements and decisions. After careful consideration, he re-entered the state of cultivation. 3 days later. Just as Yang Yi had expected, some small chambers of commerce came to him one after another. The intention of these small chambers of commerce was very clear, that is, to ask Wei Hong to serve as the worshipper of these chambers of commerce. In addition to some small chambers of commerce, there are also several small immortal cultivation families that currently have no worshippers. They also visited Wei Hong and made their own requests. Whether it is those small chambers of commerce or immortal cultivation families, the conditions they gave are not quite the same. Wei Hong did not agree directly, but evaded and said that he needed to think about it carefully. In the next few days, he deliberately checked the origins and details of those chambers of commerce, as well as their business reputation and so on. After some investigation, he finally decided to become the worshipper of 4 of the small chambers of commerce. 4, no more, no less. As for why Wei Hong did not choose to accept the worship of those small families, it was because the interests of those immortal cultivation families were not less involved, and they might cause him a lot of trouble in the future. After thinking about it, he still rejected those families. As for the 4 chambers of commerce he selected, on average, each chamber of commerce can provide him with 500 high-grade spirit stones per year, which means an annual income of 2,000 high-grade spirit stones. Together with his own salary, this has become a very considerable income. After completing this task, Wei Hong finally breathed a sigh of relief. Perhaps this is the deterrent power of giant and stage cultivators. Just a name can be exchanged for a large amount of spirit stones. No wonder giant and cultivators have so many ways to earn spirit stones. In any case, At least the spirit stone problem that has troubled him has been temporarily solved. So Wei Hong immediately went out and went to the library again. This time he went to the library to exchange some pill recipes and talismans. After serving as a guest official of the Immortal City, although Wei Hong could only choose 2 exercises and 4 spells for free, the Immortal City did not have any restrictions on various skills. Instead, all permissions were opened, allowing him to check and practice on his own. After all, the energy of each cultivator is limited. It takes a lot of energy and time to cultivate secondary skills while ensuring the cultivation. Therefore, most cultivators are basically only proficient in 1 skill, and there are very few who can master 2 skills. It is precisely because of this that the Immortal City has no restrictions on these 4 arts of cultivation. You can watch them if you want to, and learn them if you want to. Only if you have the ability and energy. Wei Hong is not greedy. He knows that only the right ones are useful. Besides, he is only at the first level of the Golden Core now, and it is not very useful to choose too many. So after careful comparison, he temporarily selected 3 kinds of pill recipes, 2 talismans and 2 formations. The 3 kinds of pill recipes are Xianling Pill, Jinyan Pill and Ningxian Pill. These 3 kinds of pill recipes are all 3rd level lower grade, and all of them can be used as pills for advanced cultivators, but the effects are slightly different. The 2 talismans are the 3rd level lower grade Limiting Xianjia Talisman and the Zuanmu Burst Thorn Talisman. The 16 Heavenly Armor Talisman is a defensive talisman. After drawing it, you can use the power of the talisman to mobilize the surrounding heaven and earth spiritual energy, and can form a thick spiritual shield for yourself to protect yourself. The Blackwood Burst Thorn Talisman is a pure offensive talisman. After activation, it can condense hundreds of extremely sharp blackwoods out of thin air to attack the enemy. The quality of the blackwood is extremely hard, and it is not even inferior to the best spiritual weapon, so the power of this talisman should not be underestimated. If there are more, ordinary giant and cultivators would not dare to resist it. As for the last 2 formations, they are the 3rd level lower grade Yin-Yang Reversal Formation and the 7 Stars Destroying Heaven Formation. The Yin-Yang Reversal Formation is a formation that mainly traps enemies. Enemies trapped in the formation will have their Yin and Yang Qi disturbed, thereby weakening their overall strength, and it is difficult for them to break the formation and escape. The 7 Stars Destroying Heaven Formation is a pure killing formation with amazing power. After selecting these things, he immediately returned to the cave. Wei Hong went directly to the practice room and lined up several jade slips in front of him. He first picked up the recipe of Xianling Pill and put it between his eyebrows to examine it carefully. After more than half an hour, he slowly opened his eyes. At this time, the system prompt sounded, Ling. The 3rd level inferior pill recipe Xianling Pill was successfully included. The current proficiency is entry level, 1/5000. Obviously, after reaching the 3rd level, whether it is spells, pill recipes, or talismans, the base number for improving the realm is 5000 vitality points. If each spell or talisman wants to be improved to the extreme realm, at least 50,000 vitality points are required. This is a huge number for Wei Hong. You must know that he is not only practicing 1 spell or 1 talisman. From the skills to spells, to pill recipes, talismans, formations, and refining, etc., each one requires vitality points to improve the realm. In this way, even more vitality points are not enough. However, Wei Hong did not think much about it at this time, but picked up several other jade slips to check. Ling. The 3rd level inferior pill recipe Jinyan Pill was successfully recorded, and the current proficiency is entry level, 1/5000. Ling. The 3rd level inferior pill recipe Ningxian Pill was successfully recorded, and the current proficiency is entry level, 1/5000. Ling. The 3rd level inferior talisman Liuding Xianjia Talisman was successfully recorded, and the current proficiency is entry level, 1/5000. The system's prompts sounded one after another, and the things recorded in those jade slips were also recorded in the system. However, after recording these pill recipes and talismans into the system, Wei Hong was thinking about how to allocate the few vitality points he had left. Chapter 915, Mysterious Wood Explosive Stab Talisman! Exclamation mark. In the talisman painting room, Wei Hong stood behind a wooden table about 10 feet long, on which was placed a thick stack of 3rd-grade inferior talisman skins. Next to the stack of talisman skins was a palm-sized inkstone filled with spiritual ink. In addition, There was a pen holder on the left side of the wooden table, on which hung 2 talisman pens of different lengths, which looked quite exquisite. Wei Hong picked up the longer talisman pen in his right hand, and took one from the stack of talisman skins with his left hand and spread it in the middle of the wooden table. This talisman skin was slightly longer than the palm of his hand, 2.5 inches wide, and was green all over. There were a few mysterious lines on the surface, which looked quite extraordinary. Because this talisman skin was made from the fur of the 3rd grade inferior demon beast King Bozuanguang Martin, each talisman skin was worth 3 high-grade spiritual stones. And the talisman pen Wei Hong was holding was also the latest 3rd grade inferior talisman pen he had purchased, which cost a full 100 high-grade spiritual stones. The spiritual ink in the inkstone is not cheap either. If you want to practice drawing a 3rd level lower grade talisman, the initial investment alone is enough to make an ordinary giant and cultivator feel painful. However, Wei Hong knew that this was absolutely not something he could save, so he didn't feel any pain at all. He held the pen in his right hand and lightly tapped the tip of the pen in the inkstone. The tip of the pen was instantly dipped in spiritual ink, but there was no sign of it dripping. Then he raised the talisman pen and suspended the tip of the pen above the talisman skin, with the tip of the pen just a fraction away from the talisman pen. The next moment, Wei Hong's wrist shook slightly. It was as if an invisible force was pulling his wrist. Under the traction and control of that invisible force, the talisman pen began to move quickly on the talisman skin, and instantly drew the first rune. The first rune was an ancient arc, just like a meteor across the night sky, with endless sharpness and sharpness. After drawing the first rune without any stagnation, the rune pen in Wei Hong's hand began to move rapidly on the talisman skin, which looked as pleasing to the eye as flowing clouds and water. Soon, mysterious and complex runes were drawn on the talisman skin. As these runes were drawn, the spiritual energy of the surrounding heaven and earth began to surge, converging towards the talisman on the wooden table. At the same time, the mana in his body was continuously injected into the talisman with the tip of the pen. However, just when the talisman was half drawn, the spiritual energy of the heaven and earth that flowed into the talisman suddenly became restless. Wei Hong frowned, immediately raised the talisman pen high, and then gently flicked his left hand, and the half-drawn talisman was swept onto the ground. Buzz! As soon as it fell to the ground, the half-drawn talisman suddenly ignited without fire. In the blink of an eye, the talisman was completely turned into ashes, and the spiritual energy of the surrounding heaven and earth also returned to calm again, without the slightest abnormality. Wei Hong seemed to be used to it, and he didn't show any strange expression. He just put down the talisman pen gently, and then sighed with a hint of helplessness. The 3rd level talisman is indeed not comparable to the 2nd level one. Even though I have improved the talisman technique to the mastery level, I still can't really draw this Zuanmu explosive stab talisman. No wonder most giant and cultivators are only proficient in one skill. Now he finally understood why few people can master more than 2 skills. There is no other reason, it is really lack of energy. The cultivators who have reached the giant stage actually want to go further, and even fantasize about entering the Yuanying stage and becoming giants and big men in the world of immortal cultivation. Therefore, every giant and cultivator will spend a lot of time in seclusion and hard training. After all, cultivation and realm are the foundation of cultivators, so no one is stupid enough to spend all their time studying skills instead of doing their job. It is good enough to have time to practice a skill and master it. If you want to practice another skill, it will take more time and energy, so few cultivators can master more than 2 skills, unless they are cultivators who know that they have no hope of breaking through. Such people will devote all their time to secondary professional skills. Wei Hong had previously upgraded his 3 new pill recipes and 2 talisman techniques to the mastery level, consuming a total of 25,000 vitality points. However, the difficulty of drawing the 3rd level low-grade talisman was beyond his expectations. Even though he had upgraded his Zuanmu explosive stab talisman to the mastery level and had been drawing it for several days in a row, he still failed to succeed once, which made Wei Hong feel quite helpless. Alice, it seems that just mastering the realm is not enough. It must be upgraded to the realm of minor success or even major success. Otherwise, the resources consumed in the early stage are too great, but there is no result. Even if my salary is high, it can't bear it. Wei Hong suspended the talisman pen on the pen holder again, sighed, and began to think in his heart, if you want to improve the realm of these skills, you need vitality points, But now I have used up all the vitality points I have stored. Now I must find a way to get vitality points again. Although he still had tens of thousands of vitality points on him after coming out of the secret realm, he had switched to practicing martial arts and practicing 3 spells before, and now he has several more secondary professional skills. After raising the 3 kinds of pill recipes and 2 talismans to a small realm, all his remaining vitality points have been consumed. Now he can only temporarily put aside the 2 newly acquired formations because he has no vitality points. But the existence of vitality points is the most important thing in Wei Hong's practice system, and it is completely indispensable. Without vitality points, his efficiency would be much slower whether he was comprehending the techniques or refining the elixir and drawing the talisman, so he had to find a way to obtain more vitality points. Now, obtaining vitality points was the most urgent problem facing Wei Hong. How should I get vitality points? Where is the best place? Wei Hong pondered in his heart. After being promoted to the Golden Core stage, it became much more difficult for him to obtain vitality points. Because only by slaughtering cultivators or monsters of the same level can a large amount of vitality points be obtained. If you kill monsters below the Golden Core stage, the vitality points you get are very few. This has been verified in the secret realm, and Wei Hong is also very clear about this. Therefore, if you want to get vitality points again, you must find a place with a large number of monsters, or a place where there are Golden Core stage monsters, so that you can achieve your goal. At this time, Wei Hong suddenly had an idea. Maybe I can go to the 10,000 Snakes Abyss again. When this idea emerged in his mind, he could no longer suppress it. Yes, the 10,000 Snakes Abyss seems to be just right. Not only does it have a large number of snake monsters, but it also has giant and stage snake monsters. It completely meets my requirements. Wei Hong's eyes lit up, and the more he thought about it, the more excited he became. At present, it seems that the only place that can meet his 2 requirements is the 10,000 Snakes Abyss. Chapter 916 Return to the 10,000 Snakes Abyss. A month later, Wei Hong walked out of the cave, and then flew directly out of Kangshan Immortal City. Now he no longer needs to change his appearance every time he goes out, unless he is doing something particularly secretive. But it is better to be cautious. After leaving the Immortal City, he changed directions twice before quickly flying to the 10,000 Snakes Abyss. This time he went to the 10,000 Snakes Abyss to gain vitality points. Wei Hong had decided on this matter as early as a month ago. However, he did not act in a hurry, but stayed in the city for a month, participated in some affairs, and got familiar with several giant and cultivators in the Immortal City. After he was no longer receiving so much attention, he was ready to act. After making sure that no one was following him, Wei Hong soon arrived near the 10,000 Snakes Abyss. Standing on the flying sword and looking ahead, he could clearly see the huge basin in front of him that was full of countless snake monsters. I didn't expect that after being promoted to the Giant stage, the 10,000 Snakes Abyss still played a great role for me. A trace of nostalgia and emotion flashed across Wei Hong's face. Without the 10,000 Snakes Abyss, he would not have been able to obtain enough vitality points during the foundation building period, and without enough vitality points, he would not have been able to support his cultivation all the way, so he still missed the 10,000 Snakes Abyss very much. He did not expect that he would return here again after being promoted to the Golden Core stage. After taking another look, Wei Hong did not go directly to the sky above the 10,000 Snakes Abyss, but came to a mountain peak 20 miles away from the 10,000 Snakes Abyss. He first opened a cave halfway up the mountain and arranged a formation to hide the cave. After everything was ready, he directly released 10 paper figures. Go! Wei Hong waved his hand, and the 10 paper figures immediately ran out of the cave. A moment later, the 10 paper figures came to the 10,000 Snakes Abyss. These 10 paper figures were refined by Wei Hong after he entered the Golden Core stage. They each stored 1/10 of his mana in their bodies, and each paper figure carried a storage bag, each of which contained a second-level spiritual weapon and some second-level talismans. After entering the 10,000 Snakes Abyss, the 10 paper figures immediately dispersed and rushed towards the snake demons in the basin from different directions, without any intention of hiding their bodies. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The paper figures ran on the ground at a very fast speed. Swish whoosh whoosh. The second-level spiritual weapons they controlled were even more swift and fierce, and they directly strangled the snake demons in front of them, just like a tiger entering a flock of sheep, with an unstoppable momentum. Puff puff puff. Before the snake demons could react, they were immediately beheaded by flying knives or flying swords. In the 10,000 snakes abyss, various blood columns sprayed into the air, and a large number of snake demons were directly killed. Blood also flowed out, and soon filled a large area, as if forming a sea of blood. At this time, the prompts in Wei Hong's mind rang continuously and densely. Ling. Life points plus 2, Ling. Life points plus 2, Ling. Life points plus 1, Ling. Life points plus 3. Each prompt sound represents the income of a life point. Wei Hong should have been happy, but after hearing the number of these life points, he could only smile bitterly and said, "This is actually as low as 1 or 2 points. How many monsters do I have to kill to save tens of thousands of life points?" Although he had been mentally prepared before coming, he still felt a little helpless when he really saw this result. At this time, most of the snake monsters killed by the 10 paper figures were below the foundation establishment stage, which was too far from Wei Hong's realm. Most of the life points they obtained were only 1 or 2 points, almost nothing. Such a low single-digit harvest was really frustrating. Fortunately, after slaughtering a large number of key training stage snake monsters, the foundation establishment stage snake monsters that were deeper in the cave were soon exposed. Ling. Life points plus 10, Ling. Life points plus 15, Ling. Life points plus 18. After killing the foundation building snake demon, the life points obtained immediately increased a little, reaching more than 10 or 20 points, which finally made Wei Hong feel better. At this time in the 10,000 snakes abyss, the violent killing brought by the 10 paper figures directly attracted the crazy hatred of a large number of snake demons. Originally, the movement caused by the slaughter of only the key training snake demons was not very big at the beginning, but when large groups of foundation building snake demons were also slaughtered, it was like a storm in the 10,000 snakes abyss, instantly attracting countless foundation building snake demons to attack crazily. Faced with the provocation of the paper figures, these snake demons immediately turned red-eyed. Those snake demons screamed and screamed in anger, their voices full of tyranny and anger. Puff puff. Swish swish swish. All kinds of venom sprayed wildly towards the 10 paper figures. There were also countless snake demons that immediately swam towards the 10 paper figures quickly, and even some flying snake demons directly pounced on them. For a moment, the 10 paper figures scattered in various positions seemed to be completely submerged by the wave formed by the snake demon in the next moment. However, the 10 paper figures were not panicked at all. They retreated quickly while controlling the spiritual tools to continue to kill the snake demon. At the same time, they continued to take out various second-level talismans from the storage bag and threw them directly, without considering the target at all. Boom! A series of huge roars continued to be heard, and a large number of snake demons were also killed and injured. There were also spiritual tools controlled by the 10 paper figures, harvesting snake demons piece by piece. A large number of snake demons were cut into 2 pieces, or directly split in half. In short, the scene was extremely bloody. Then, stimulated by the blood, the snake demons in the 10,000 snakes abyss not only had no fear, but became more and more crazy and furious, and directly surrounded and killed the 10 paper figures without caring about anything. Ling. Vitality points plus 20, Ling. Vitality points plus 21, Ling. Life points plus 18. Wei Hong stayed in the cave without any action, and the reminder of life points kept coming from his mind. Under his control, the 10 paper figures fought and retreated, and were not surrounded by snake monsters, but kept hanging large groups of snake monsters, and the spiritual tools they controlled were still harvesting continuously. At this moment, the 10 paper figures set off a wave of killing in the 10,000 snakes abyss. A large number of snake monsters were slaughtered and then turned into life points and stored in Wei Hong's body. If such a bloody and terrifying scene was seen by other cultivators, it might completely detonate the entire Kangshan Immortal City. Before this, no cultivator dared to do such a thing. Only Wei Hong, relying on the means of paper figure art, dared to come to the 10,000 snakes abyss to provoke these millions of snake monsters. Soon, the 10 paper figures were forced to the edge of the 10,000 snakes abyss by the waves of snakes. Under Wei Hong's control, the 10 paper figures stopped killing and turned around to flee. Using the mountain terrain and their own speed, they quickly got rid of the countless furious snake monsters. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, It means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 917, Go Deep into the 10,000 Snakes Abyss. After the 10 paper figures got rid of the snake demon army behind them, they immediately returned to the cave where Wei Hong was. The 10 paper figures did not suffer any damage, but the mana stored in their bodies was almost exhausted. There was no other way. They controlled the spiritual tools to kill so many snake demons, so it was normal for them to consume a lot of mana, so Wei Hong directly collected the 10 paper figures and prepared to re-inject mana after returning. Now that the snakes and the 10,000 snakes abyss are rioting, it is naturally not suitable to immediately brush the vitality points. At this time, Wei Hong looked at the vitality points he had just obtained in his body, and said with a sigh, there are less than 5,000 vitality points at a time, and it takes 10 times to get 50,000 points. This efficiency is really not high. It's not that he is greedy, but the gap in vitality points is too big now. Let alone a few thousand vitality points, even if it is tens of thousands, it can only allow 1 or 2 spells to reach the limit, so the number of vitality points he needs is very large. It's just that the snakes and the 10,000 snakes abyss are rioting now, and he must wait until the snake demons calm down before continuing to act. Thinking of this, Wei Hong took out the 10,000 souls banner, which had been promoted to the semi-magic weapon level, from his storage bag. No matter how small a mosquito leg is, it is still meat. No matter whether it is a key training stage snake demon or a foundation building stage snake demon, all of them should enter my 10,000 souls banner. The 10,000 souls banner can accommodate countless ghosts, and the more souls are refined, the stronger the power will be. Therefore, even if it is the soul of a key training stage monster, as long as the number is large enough, the quantitative change will produce a qualitative change. Wei Hong will not be disgusted, and will prepare to collect all the souls of the killed snake demons into the 10,000 souls banner later. Tisk tisk tisk, there are at least millions of snake demons here, even if most of them are key training stage snake demons, as long as they keep killing, maybe it won't be long before my 10,000 souls banner can be promoted to the magic weapon level. Wei Hong is quite looking forward to this, and this is definitely not an impossible thing to achieve. After waiting for more than 2 hours, he used his spiritual sense to check that the rioting snake monsters in the 10,000 snakes abyss had gradually calmed down and retreated into the basin, making the 10,000 snakes abyss quiet again. At this time, he waved his hand, and a paper man carrying the 10,000 souls banner quietly left the cave. A quarter of an hour later, the paper man quietly returned to the cave. In this way, thousands of snake monster souls were collected in the 10,000 souls banner. Wei Hong smiled with satisfaction, and then sent out 10 more paper men to continue slaughtering the snake monsters. In the 10,000 snakes abyss, a similar scene was staged again. 10 paper men rushed into the group of snakes from different directions, setting off a bloody storm. Wei Hong also quietly left the cave and came to the vicinity of the 10,000 snakes abyss, and quietly released his spiritual sense. Huh? After a moment, he immediately exclaimed in surprise, then frowned and murmured, there is only one Jinden-level snake demon? Where are the others? Wei Hong used his spiritual sense to explore and found that there was only one Jinden-level demon beast in the depths of the Wash Abyss. The Jinden-level demon beasts he had seen before were all gone, and no one knew where they had gone. He vaguely remembered that when he first discovered the Wash Abyss, there were no less than 4 Jinden-level demon beasts in the center of the Wash Abyss, but now there was only one left, and that Jinden demon beast was still at the bottom of the abyss. He only used his spiritual sense to slightly sense the other party's existence, but did not dare to rashly detect it, so he did not know what kind of demon beast it was. If that's the case, can't I kill it and see? Wei Hong's eyes suddenly lit up, and his thoughts became more and more uncontrollable. He thought, since there was only one Jinden-level demon beast at the bottom of the Wash Abyss, and from the sensed aura, it was a Jinden-level demon beast with a cultivation level similar to his. In this way, it was completely within his ability to deal with. As long as the Jinden stage monster is killed successfully, not only can a large amount of vitality points be harvested, but also a corpse of a Jinden monster can be obtained. The monster materials on it are definitely worth a lot of money. The most important thing is the monster soul of the monster. Once it is absorbed by the one-hand banner and successfully refined, Maybe this one-hand banner can take this opportunity to completely upgrade to a magic weapon. Even if it cannot be upgraded, it will definitely make the one-hand banner stronger. It can be said that this is definitely a good thing to kill two birds with one stone. Thinking of this, Wei Hong could no longer hold back. He immediately thought, let's see first, hunt the snake monsters outside first, get as many vitality points as possible, and then find an opportunity to kill it. It's best not to alarm the monster right away, and the giant monster is at the bottom of the abyss, and the silver corpse I prepared can come in handy. It's a pity that the third level formation I just got has not yet begun to comprehend, otherwise it would be much safer with the help of the formation. He just turned it around in his mind and had already thought of the next plan. Just a giant level monster was not enough to make him feel fearful. With his powerful foundation of Shyandao Giandan, his own strength was far above that of the cultivators of the same level. In addition, he had already practiced 3 spells, so it should not be a problem to take down a giant level monster. Moreover, Wei Hong was very curious about what kind of environment was under the 10,000 snakes abyss. That deep abyss is at least hundreds of feet deep, and there is a huge underground river connected to it. The environment below should be very complicated or full of dangers. I don't know if there are any good things. Now there is only one giant level monster staying at the bottom of the abyss, which is definitely a rare opportunity for Wei Hong. If the previous giant level monsters were present at the same time, he would never dare to have such an idea. Thinking of this, under his control, the 10 paper figures began to slaughter the snake monsters crazily again, and the continuous and intensive system prompts sounded in his mind again. Ling. Vitality points plus 3, Ling. Vitality points plus 2, Ling. Life points plus 2. Wei Hong automatically blocked the prompt sound from the system and focused on observing the situation in the 10,000 snakes abyss. Seeing the 10 paper figures appear again and slaughtering their kind wantonly, the snake demons that had finally calmed down suddenly became violent and surrounded and killed the 10 paper figures. Puff puff puff. The 10 spiritual weapons flew wildly and harvested, constantly killing the snake demons one by one. The entire 10,000 snakes abyss was immediately filled with blood, and snake corpses lay across the ground. There were endless screams, and a large amount of blood directly soaked the ground into blood red. The strong smell of blood instantly spread to the surroundings. And the screams of the snake demons before they died directly alarmed the monsters within dozens of miles around. After feeling the terrifying atmosphere and riots on the 10,000 snakes abyss side, the surrounding monsters fled in fear. Chapter 918 Unknown Crisis. 3 days later. Wei Hong restrained his breath and stood on a mountain peak at the edge of the 10,000 snakes abyss, quietly looking at the 10,000 snakes abyss in front of him. If you look down from the sky, you will find that the huge basin where the 10,000 snakes abyss is located is like an irreparable wound on the earth, and the long abyss in the center of the basin is like an ugly scar, which looks very conspicuous. After 3 days of continuous slaughter, the number of snake monsters still on the ground has been reduced by half. Most of the snake monsters have already seen the bad situation and head directly in the abyss, and dare not take risks again. The snake monsters that can reach the foundation building stage already have a high level of intelligence. They may be furious or riotous at the beginning, and want to kill the 10 paper figures regardless of anything, but later they find that they can't cause any harm to the paper figures at all, but their own kind are slaughtered in large numbers. How miserable. Such a tragic situation gradually frightened the foundation building stage snake monsters, so that most of them began to take the initiative to hide. Wei Hong was quite helpless about this situation and secretly said, "I didn't expect so many snake monsters to choose to hide. This is quite surprising. There are as many as millions of snake monsters in the 10,000 snakes abyss. Although most of them are only key training stage snake monsters and foundation building stage snake monsters, if they really riot, even 10 giant cultivators may not be able to resist them together." Fortunately, Wei Hong only let the paper man kill some snake monsters and then retreat immediately, and he took the strategy of stopping when he saw the advantage. He didn't expect that after slaughtering several times like this, most of the snake monsters would be scared away. This is a good thing for him, because it allows him to go directly into the abyss. The action of obtaining vitality points can be put aside for the time being. Let me go to the bottom of the abyss to see what kind of monster that is. Since most of the snake monsters have already hidden under the abyss, he naturally wants to take this opportunity to go down and see if there is a chance to kill the giant stage monster on the spot. In the past 3 days, After the 10 papermen slaughtered several times, Wei Hong obtained more than 30,000 vitality points in total. The main reason was that the snake monsters in the key training stage were only worth single digits, and the snake monsters in the foundation building stage hid themselves one after another, so the number of vitality points did not satisfy him. However, Wei Hong did not care. He first invested 18,000 vitality points in the Shenmue strangling technique, raising it to the great success realm, and then invested 8,000 vitality points in the wooden prism prisoning technique, raising it to the small success realm. In this way, after a simple familiarity and experiment, the combat power he could exert was increased again, and he had stronger confidence in facing the giant stage monster under the ground abyss. Whoosh! Without further ado, Wei Hong set off immediately. He first restrained all his breath, and then pasted a spiritual hidden talisman on his body to hide his figure. After making all the preparations, he immediately flew down to the 10,000 snakes abyss from a hidden position. Under the cover of the Lingayan talisman, no snake demon could detect his existence. As soon as he entered the abyss, Wei Hong felt that the environment became cold and the air was very humid. The mountain walls on both sides also looked slippery. The deeper he went, the more obvious the cold feeling became. Tisk, the environment here is quite similar to the deep valley in the secret realm. Wei Hong secretly commented after observing for a while. The mountain walls on both sides of this abyss are not straight down at 90 degrees, but have a large slope. It is precisely because of this that the snake demons in the Wansh abyss can enter the abyss to hide. In addition, there are dense tunnels in the mountain walls on both sides. He explored the tunnels with his spiritual consciousness and found that these tunnels were winding and connected to each other, just like countless silk threads connected together, and there were dense snake demons living in them. Wei Hong quickly flew down to a depth of hundreds of feet, and then he immediately heard the sound of rushing water. He looked down, and with the help of the weak light, he saw that there was an underground river at least 50 to 60 feet wide flowing violently at the bottom of the abyss. In that huge underground river, you can see densely packed snake demons living on both sides of the river. At the same time, there are also a large number of snake demons rolling back and forth in the underground river water. The number is enough to make people dumbfounded. If someone with intensive phobia saw this scene, he would probably faint directly. Wei Hong did not intend to provoke these snake demons. He now appeared in his true form, and his original intention was just to cause trouble for the giant stage monster, and he did not want to attract the siege of all the snake demons. He did not want to put himself in danger. When he was still dozens of feet away from the underground river, he stopped, and then flew along the downstream of the river in the direction he had sensed before. At the same time, Wei Hong's spiritual consciousness was quietly released. He tried to extend his consciousness downwards, but the result was quite shocking. After a moment, he immediately retracted his consciousness as if he had been electrocuted. Seeing that there was no movement at the bottom of the abyss, he breathed a sigh of relief and murmured, "This 10,000 snakes abyss is indeed bottomless and seems to have an endless depth. My consciousness cannot reach the bottom even if I extend it with all my strength. Moreover, the space below the abyss is extremely vast, and it seems to have the effect of suppressing consciousness. The most important thing is that more than 10 terrifying auras appeared faintly at the bottom of the abyss. Fortunately, I did not alarm these terrifying existences." Just as Wei Hong expected, in addition to the giant stage monster beast on the surface, there were indeed many terrifying monster beasts above the giant stage at the bottom of the abyss. He even sensed a trace of aura that frightened him in the deeper part, indicating that there must be terrifying monster beasts above the Yuanying stage in the deeper part of this abyss. Such a dangerous environment also made him become more cautious. However, those terrible monsters are now hiding in the abyss and have not appeared at this time. As long as they are not alarmed, there will be no great danger. Thinking of this, Wei Hong breathed a sigh of relief quietly, and the importance and danger level of this 10,000 snakes abyss in his heart also increased to the highest level. He knew that this place was definitely not something he was qualified to explore clearly now. Perhaps, it will be possible to truly explore the secrets of this place after being promoted to Yuanying's Henrun. Such a thought flashed through Wei Hong's mind, but it was extinguished immediately. Such things were too far away from him, and it was meaningless to think too much. So he suppressed the thought in his mind, and then carefully flew slowly towards the downstream of the underground river. With the help of his spiritual sense that was far more powerful than that of the same level, Wei Hong quickly found the trace of the monster. "I found you." Wei Hong was slightly excited. Chapter 919 Two-Headed Green Knight Python! Exclamation mark. Soon, under the cover of the Lingayan talisman, Wei Hong came to the vicinity of the monster. He looked closely at the distance of hundreds of feet and recognized the footsteps of the giant monster at a glance. Huh? It's the two-headed green knight python. Wei Hong's face froze slightly, and then immediately returned to normal. The two-headed green knight python is a monster that is proficient in water escape techniques, and its body is strong. At night, it will use the power of the starry night to enhance its strength. It also contains a strong poison in its body. It is not easy to deal with among the monsters in the early stage of Jinden. Fortunately, it is not night now, otherwise it would be difficult to make a move. Wei Hong muttered to himself, but did not retreat because of this. However, before taking action, he must also be fully prepared. At this time, the two-headed green knight python was lying on a shiny black boulder, and it seemed to be dormant and sleeping, so the many battles that had taken place on the ground before had not alarmed the giant python, which also gave Wei Hong the opportunity to prepare. Wei Hong first looked around and found that both sides of the underground river were very spacious, and there were still hundreds of feet away from the mountain walls on both sides. There was nothing around except some wet rocks. Moreover, at this time, the two-headed green knight python was at the riverside of the underground river and had not gone deep into the abyss. In this way, even if a war broke out here, it would not necessarily alarm the terrible monsters under the abyss. The most important thing is that although the two-headed green knight python was dormant, the powerful aura it exuded still made countless snake monsters dare not approach it, so there were no other snake monsters within hundreds of feet. After observing for a while, Wei Hong waved his hand and released 10 paper figures directly. 6 of the paper figures did not activate immediately, but were like pieces of paper without any breath, and fell directly around the two-headed green knight python, dozens of feet away from the giant python, so it did not alarm the giant python. The other 4 paper figures were arranged in pairs, upstream and downstream of the underground river hundreds of feet away. This preparation was to prevent the arrival of other snake monsters. After all the preparations were done, Wei Hong began to slowly approach the two-headed green knight python under the cover of the Lingayan talisman. He came to the top of the two-headed green knight python silently, only a few dozen feet away from the giant python. At this time, he stopped cautiously. The next moment, Wei Hong took out a red flying sword from the storage bag. This flying sword was Huang Fugang's life magic weapon, and it was just right to use it at this time. The main reason was that this was a fire-attributed magic weapon, and the two-headed green knight python was a water-attributed monster. It was naturally best to use fire to overcome water. In addition, Wei Hong had no magic weapon in his hand, so this flying sword magic weapon became the best choice. After taking out the flying sword, Wei Hong's eyes immediately stared at the two-headed green knight python below. The next moment, the mana in his body was suddenly injected into the flying sword, and the flying sword immediately swelled up against the wind to become a foot in size, and emitted bursts of high temperature, and flames appeared on the sword body. When the flames on the sword body appeared, the surrounding moist air was swished. The 10-foot-long flying sword mercilessly chopped down at the two-headed green knight python below. Hiss! In fact, just when Wei Hong took out the flying sword magic weapon, the dormant two-headed green knight python had already been awakened. The 4 snake eyes as big as fists opened instantly and saw the flying sword that was about to chop down. So the two-headed green knight python subconsciously roared in anger, and the snake scales on its body were flowing with green light and formed the appearance of armor, as if giving people a feeling of indestructibility. Just as the 10-foot-long red flying sword chopped down, the two-headed green knight python roared again, and the voice was full of anger and violence, as if it didn't expect that a human cultivator would dare to provoke it. Buzz! Facing the powerful momentum of the red flying sword, the two-headed green knight python immediately jumped up, and the python body that was originally perched on the boulder instantly became more than 10 feet long, and rushed towards the flying sword. Puff! But the two-headed green knight python was not stupid either. When it jumped up, the left head suddenly sprayed out a mouthful of dark green venom. Puff! Before the venom really got close, it was burned by the high temperature nearby, and it sizzled and turned into mist and merged into the surrounding water vapor, causing waves of green mist to rise. Seeing this, Wei Hong pinched his hands and urged his magic power. The next moment, the flames on the red flying sword suddenly increased. The ball of venom was rolled and burned by the flames, and disappeared without a trace in an instant. At this time, a layer of green armor appeared on the two heads of the two-headed green knight python. Bang! The right head was extremely ferocious, and it hit the flying sword fiercely without fear. A huge and silent sound exploded instantly, and under the splash of fire, the red flying sword that was several feet long was actually bounced away fiercely. The flying sword chopped on the python head with the green armor, but only split the green armor into a tiny crack, but failed to directly split the green armor. On the contrary, the two-headed green knight python had strange strength, which made the fierce red flying sword fly away. Evil beast, you are really thick-skinned. Wei Hong's face condensed, and he immediately scolded. But when he saw the red flying sword was shaken away, another blue flying sword appeared in his hand again. Cut again. Wei Hong shouted loudly, and chopped down the blue flying sword that had become several feet long again. With his spiritual power, it was naturally more than enough to control two magic weapons. And this was also a good time when the old power of the two-headed green knight python had dissipated and the new power had not yet been generated. Bang! The blue flying sword chopped again on the tiny crack that had just appeared. Crack! The crack was instantly split open and spread along the python's body. However, although the crack expanded and spread more than 10 feet long, the blue armor on the two-headed green knight python still could not be completely broken. However, this time, the giant python that jumped up was hit hard by the blue flying sword and fell directly back on the dark boulder. Roar! The two-headed green knight python roared furiously, staring at Wei Hong. However, before it could make any move, it found that a layer of green light curtain rose around it. Just as the two-headed green knight python was resisting the flying sword, 6 paper figures appeared silently around it, and then they each took out several formation flags and quickly nailed all the formation flags into specific positions. Then the 6 paper figures pinched their hands and directly activated the 6 absolute green thunder formation. When the two-headed green knight python fell on the boulder, it was just covered by the formation. Seeing this scene, the two-headed green knight python's eyes instantly turned red. Puff! In a rage, a ball of dark green venom the size of a bathtub gushed out from the python's left head again. Sizzle! The ball of venom sprayed directly onto the sign light curtain dozens of feet away, corroding the sign light curtain with a sizzling sound. Chapter 920, Wooden Prison Imprisonment Technique! Exclamation mark. Hey, you evil beast, die! Seeing the formation taking shape, Wei Hong immediately struck while the iron was hot. Swish! The red and blue flying swords, one on the left and one on the right, each slashed down wildly at the two-headed green knight python. The 6 absolutes green thunder formation not only has the effect of trapping, blocking and attacking the enemy, but also can block the breath and sound. At this time, they are all in the formation, and Wei Hong no longer has to worry about the movement of the battle attracting other monsters. The two-headed green knight python saw that although its venom successfully corroded a large area of the light curtain, the green light curtain quickly repaired itself and showed no signs of being broken. When it saw the 2 flying swords slashing wildly, the two-headed green knight python suddenly became violent. Whoosh! The green light flowed on the two-headed green knight python, and the green armor that was originally a little broken was immediately restored to its original state. The next moment, the giant python raised its thick and deadly tail and swung it wildly towards the red flying sword on the left. The speed was so fast and the momentum was so fierce that even the air seemed to explode. At the same time, the 2 python heads on the left and right each sprayed a large amount of venom at the blue flying sword. Bang! The huge and thick python tail was as fast as lightning, and it directly lashed at the red flying sword that was slashing at it, and slammed the red flying sword that was several feet long away. The strength was simply horrifying. Wei Hong didn't dare to think about whether he would be turned into minced meat in an instant if he was directly slapped by the python's tail. However, he couldn't let the monster get close to him. He changed his hand gestures, and the blue flying sword immediately dodged the 2 venoms under his control, and once again slashed fiercely on the layer of green armor. Clang! A crisp sound was heard. Hiss! Exclamation mark. The two-headed green knight python was not hurt, but the huge force transmitted from the flying sword still made it scream in pain. Bang! The next moment, the huge python tail whipped over, and the blue flying sword was unable to dodge and was also whipped away fiercely. Evil beast, this huge force is really amazing. Wei Hong praised angrily, but his eyes were extremely cold. He had already found that it would be difficult to cause damage to the two-headed green knight python without breaking the layer of green armor, so he had to find a way to break the layer of green armor. Thinking of this, Wei Hong immediately had an idea, and then shouted, "Fall!" Rumble. A large number of heavy dark clouds had already quietly condensed within the formation, and at this time, a large amount of green thunder immediately struck down from the dark clouds. Bang bang bang. The dense thunder directly bombarded the body of the two-headed green night python, and its huge body made it impossible to dodge. However, the thunders struck down one after another, hitting the layer of green armor, but only made dense sounds like rain hiding banana leaves, but did not cause much impact on the green armor, and did not even leave a few marks. Roar. The two-headed green night python roared in pain, and stretched its tail into the river again and again. Puff, puff. Hundreds of water reeds immediately condensed and shot wildly towards Wei Hong in midair. Since Wei Hong appeared, this two-headed green night python has been in a passive situation, and has not shown any special magical powers or strength, except for the layer of green armor. In this way, it seems that this two-headed green night python is not as powerful as imagined. But in fact, Wei Hong has always been vigilant. He knows very well that the monster beast that can break through to the golden core stage must not be underestimated. Sure enough, the hundreds of sharp water reeds that appear now are proof. As a monster beast proficient in water escape, the two-headed green night python naturally cannot know any spells. When those hundreds of water reeds were madly shooting at him, Wei Hong had already responded. A layer of green shield first appeared on the surface of his body, which was the defensive spell of the green light sword shield. Although he has now switched to practicing the King Di Cheng Shengguang, he has already mastered the 3 spells that come with the King Guang sword art. In particular, the King Guang sword light and King Guang sword shield have long been upgraded to the limit and have become his own skills and spells. Even if he no longer practices the King Guang sword art, he can still cast these 3 spells. Moreover, under the urging of the new technique King Di Cheng Shengguang, the power of these 3 spells is far greater than before. After casting the King Guang sword shield, Wei Hong immediately pinched his hands and pointed forward. Condensate? A series of blue lightning suddenly split out from the dark clouds, and then merged with each other in front of him, and instantly condensed into a wall of thunder, directly blocking the hundreds of water grass. Puff puff. Boom. Hundreds of water grasses shot wildly, bombarding the wall of thunder and immediately set off a huge sound. At the same time, the water grasses immediately burst open, turning into sharp water droplets and continuing to hit. The wall of thunder was shaky and about to break apart. Wei Hong immediately stretched out his hand and threw more than 20 self-destructing talismans. Boom. Explosions sounded one after another. As the flames rose, the shock wave also spread out in all directions, instantly blasting away countless water droplets, turning them into water mist and evaporating. The wall of thunder was also torn apart by the violent explosion. The two-headed green night python was resisting the bombardment of the remaining half of the green thunder. Its thick python tail was raised high on the ground, and then it slammed the ground hard. The huge python body of more than 10 feet long was ejected and rushed towards Wei Hong in the air. Obviously, the two-headed green night python was unwilling to be in a passive position. Moreover, it also saw that it had fallen into Wei Hong's encirclement, so it wanted to directly deal with Wei Hong, the instigator. The two-headed green night python was even more confident. As long as it could get close to Wei Hong, it would definitely be able to kill it. After all, the body of a demon beast is completely incomparable to that of a cultivator. Wei Hong naturally saw the giant python's plan, so he would never give it such a chance. Whoosh! His body suddenly retreated, and at the same time, his hands were quickly pinching the seals, and he was muttering something. Obviously he was prepared. Just when the two-headed green night python was ejected into the air, Wei Hong had already finished casting the spell, and then he shouted coldly, "Trap it!" Buzz! As Wei Hong's voice fell, a wooden prison of more than 20 feet in size suddenly appeared around the two-headed green night python in the air. This huge wooden prison was green all over, and the surface was composed of crisscrossed hard giant trees. Each giant tree was flashing with a green light, and there were also iron-like lines on the surface, which looked very indestructible. This was the wooden prison trapping technique that Wei Hong had just learned. When this huge wooden cage appeared, it immediately trapped the two-headed green night python and directly restricted its movement. Bang! The two-headed green night python was not willing to be trapped, and its thick python tail whipped it fiercely. A huge dull sound came, and the wooden cage shook, but there was no sign of breaking. Instead, it directly trapped the two-headed green night python. Chapter 921 Sword Shadow Spectroscopy! Exclamation mark. Clang. The huge body of the two-headed green knight python struggled frantically, knocking the wooden prison with a clang. The two python heads also tried to spray venom, but it was useless. The two-headed green knight python immediately realized that something was wrong, and at the same time struggled and lashed even more frantically. At this time, Wei Hong had already taken the opportunity to complete the spell, and shouted, "Kill!" As the magic power in his body surged out, the hard giant trees that made up the wooden prison actually grew spikes more than 3 feet long and as thick as human arms on the surface. The spikes were shining with cold light, which looked quite terrifying. The next moment, dozens of giant trees covered with spikes suddenly gathered in the middle, and at the moment of gathering, they each spun rapidly in different directions. The sharp spikes turned into terrifying killing weapons under the rapid rotation. At this moment, dozens of giant trees seemed to form a huge meat grinder. The sharp spikes that were spinning wildly could not be seen at all, and brought waves of terrifying whistling. This is the Shenmue strangling technique that Wei Hong has cultivated to the great perfection realm. And the two-headed green knight python that was shrouded in the middle was like a piece of meat in a meat grinder. It immediately felt the horror of this spell. Under the crazy cutting of countless sharp spikes, the two-headed green knight python immediately let out a shrill scream. Ding ding ding. The spikes cut on the layer of green armor, just like a sharp weapon scraping on the surface of iron sheet, directly arousing bursts of sparks and extremely sharp sounds, almost piercing the eardrum. However, although the layer of green armor was hard, it was quickly torn apart under the crazy cutting of countless sharp spikes, and then the body of the two-headed green knight python suffered a terrible injury, like a slow slicing. Puff. Blood splashed and scales fell. The screams of the two-headed green knight python became more and more shrill, and were full of despair and unwillingness. In just more than 10 breaths, the breath of the two-headed green knight python shrugged. Obviously, under the terrible power of Shenmue strangling technique, this two-headed green knight python was directly severely injured. Even though its body was very strong, it still could not withstand the power of this spell. After reaching the great perfection realm, the power of this Shenmue strangling technique naturally increased greatly. However, at this moment, the severely injured two-headed green knight python seemed unwilling to die like this, so it endured the pain of being tortured and suddenly opened its bloody mouth. Puff. A light blue demon pill was spit out by the two-headed green knight python without any warning. When this light blue demon pill was spit out, the breath of the two-headed green knight python was completely shriveled. But the demon pill exuded an extremely powerful breath, as dazzling as a small sun. Evil beast, you still want to fight to the death? Wei Hong's face changed slightly when he saw this, and then he immediately shouted coldly. He didn't understand that this two-headed green knight python clearly wanted to take someone with him before he died. Whether the giant python wanted to use this demon pill to make a desperate attack or to launch a self-destruction, the power would definitely be amazing. Wei Hong naturally couldn't let this evil beast do what he wanted, and he subconsciously snorted coldly. HMPH. The shocking spirit thorn was silently performed with a cold snort. Ank. The two-headed green knight python, which was already in great pain, immediately let out an indescribable shrill scream, and its huge body struggled and twisted wildly. Under the attack of Wei Hong's shocking spirit thorn, the two-headed green knight python was hit directly without any surprise. The pain in the soul was even more than the pain in the flesh, and the pain could not be described in words. In an instant, the two-headed green knight python, except for the body still twisting wildly subconsciously, had already become like paste, and the soul had become confused. Even the demon pill that was spit out of the body stopped in midair, without any movement. A cold light flashed in Wei Hong's eyes. While the two-headed green knight python had not yet recovered, he quickly dodged to the top of the demon pill, then stretched out his hand and grabbed the demon pill directly in his hand. The next moment, he put the demon pill into the storage bag without even looking at it, and then immediately came to the top of the two-headed green knight python. Sword Shadow Spectroscopic Technique, cut. Wei Hong quickly made a seal with both hands, and shouted loudly while the mana in his body surged wildly. Buzz! The red flying sword about 10 feet long immediately flew back, and then under his control, it immediately transformed into 3 identical flying swords. After the flying swords condensed, the 4 flying swords slashed down fiercely at the two-headed green knight python below. Roar! At this time, the two-headed green knight python endured the pain and barely recovered its consciousness, But when it found that its demon pill had no breath at all, and there were 4 deadly sword lights slashing down from the sky above its head, it immediately let out a furious and desperate scream. However, under the restriction of the divine tree strangling technique, the 2-headed green knight python was unable to respond effectively. Moreover, its demon core had been lost, and its strength and aura had been weakened by more than half. In addition, it was already seriously injured, so how could it have the strength to resist the sword shadow spectroscopy technique? Puff! In the desperate and unwilling eyes of the 2-headed green knight python, 4 sword lights chopped down without any hindrance, and instantly cut a huge body of more than 10 feet long into several pieces. The 2 ferocious heads of the 2-headed green knight python were directly cut off by a sword. Life points plus 5,000. At the moment when the 2-headed green knight python died, Wei Hong immediately heard the system prompt in his mind. Even though the 2-headed green knight python had been completely killed at this time, and even the 2 heads of the python had been cut off, the body that was cut into several pieces was still twisting when it fell to the ground, and it was obvious that the vitality had not dissipated immediately. Huh? Wei Hong exhaled lightly, waved his hand and took back the 2 red and blue flying swords, and then murmured to himself, "A giant and level 1 monster gave 5,000 vitality points. It seems that if you want to brush vitality points on a large scale, it is still best to find monsters of the same level. Unfortunately, it is impossible to have such a good opportunity to encounter a lone giant and monster every time, otherwise he would kill them one by one and it would not take long to accumulate 100,000 vitality points." Suppressing this unrealistic idea, Wei Hong immediately landed on the open space by the river. At this time, the several pieces of python bodies had slowly calmed down, leaving only large pieces of blood still flowing out. He didn't look closely, and directly waved his hand to gather all the corpses of the 2-headed green knight python together. These monster materials can be carefully divided after he returns, so there is no need to check them now. Fortunately, there is the 6 absolute green thunder formation to cover up the breath and movement, so his battle with the 2-headed green knight python did not attract the attention of other snake monsters. After gathering several pieces of python heads together, Wei Hong slowly took out the 10,000 souls banner from his storage bag. Chapter 922 Mysterious Place. Obtaining vitality points was not Wei Hong's only goal. Being able to kill this 2-headed green knight python, he not only gained 5,000 vitality points, but also obtained some giant and stage monster materials. The most important thing was the soul of the 2-headed green knight python, which was what Wei Hong valued the most. In this way, he killed the 2-headed green knight python and achieved multiple goals at one stroke. After taking out the 10,000 souls banner, Wei Hong extended his hand and supported it. The 10,000 souls banner slowly rose and swelled against the wind. After becoming 10 feet in size, the surface of the 10,000 souls banner began to shake gently. A powerful invisible suction force suddenly emerged and enveloped the corpse of the 2-headed green knight python on the ground. Buzz! Soon, a translucent soul that was also more than 10 feet long floated up from the corpse of the 2-headed green knight python. As the suction force grew stronger and stronger, the soul shrank smaller and smaller, and finally it was directly absorbed by the 10,000 souls banner with a whoosh, and then the aura of the 10,000 souls banner immediately increased a lot. It really works immediately. I wonder if the 10,000 souls banner can be promoted to a magic weapon after refining this soul thoroughly. Wei Hong smiled lightly, thought about it, and actually opened his mouth to suck the 10,000 souls banner in. At this time, the 10,000 souls banner, as a semi-magic weapon level treasure, naturally has some of the characteristics of a magic weapon, such as being able to be stored in the Danshan for nourishment. This is the biggest difference between a magic weapon and a spiritual weapon. After storing the 10,000 souls banner in the Danshan, he can not only nourish it from time to time, but the Dan fire and the golden elixir can also help the 10,000 souls banner quickly refine the soul of the 2-headed blue knight python, making the 10,000 souls banner even more powerful. At this time, Wei Hong waved his hand and put all the pieces of the python corpse into the storage bag. He, not bad, not only killed a giant and stage monster, but also harvested a lot of monster materials and a monster pill. The harvest is not bad. Wei Hong felt a little happy in his heart. Such a harvest was not in vain for him to take a huge risk to come to the abyss. But now was not the time to count the harvest. He looked around and first used several flames to burn all the monster blood on the ground. Then he called in the underground river water to wash it again. Only then did he collect all the 10 paper figures. After collecting the paper figures, the 6 absolutes green thunder formation was naturally withdrawn. There was no movement within hundreds of feet nearby. Under the cover of the formation, the sound of the battle just now was obviously not leaked at all. Seeing this, Wei Hong breathed a sigh of relief. He was not afraid of attracting ordinary snake monsters, but was afraid of the hidden giant stage monsters under the abyss. The aura of those giant stage monsters was much more terrifying than the two-headed green night python. Once attracted, it would be difficult for him to escape. After cleaning up the battlefield, he stood there and pondered, since we are here, we might as well explore carefully to see what kind of environment is under the 10,000 snakes abyss. Maybe we can find some good things. When this idea emerged, he could no longer suppress it. Wei Hong immediately took action. He first pasted a Lingayan talisman on himself again, then gathered all his auras, and then quietly flew slowly towards the downstream of the underground river. As he continued to fly, he slowly saw part of the appearance of the Wanxian. The scenes on both sides of the underground river were basically similar. There were also a large number of snake monsters. After flying for hundreds of feet, he found that a huge crack began to appear on both sides of the riverbank. The crack was bottomless, and a gust of wind blew up from time to time. It was pitch black and nothing could be seen clearly. However, after Wei Hong's spiritual sense probed into it, he also found some powerful auras. He did not dare to alarm those terrible monsters at all, so he could only become more cautious. After flying a few miles forward, he found that the front became darker and gradually could not see anything, as if he was getting deeper and deeper into the abyss. At this moment, Wei Hong suddenly sensed that hundreds of double-winged flying snakes appeared in front of him. This double-winged flying snake is a kind of snake demon. It can fly and is not small in size. When the wings are spread out, they are usually more than 2 meters long. Each double-winged flying snake has the foundation building stage. At this time, hundreds of double-winged flying snakes suddenly appeared for unknown reasons, and they flew towards Wei Hong in a dense and fast manner. Wei Hong's consciousness immediately frowned after seeing this scene. He didn't want to collide head-on with hundreds of double-winged flying snakes. It was too late to increase the flying altitude at this time, and it would be easy to be exposed if he descended to the riverbank. Just as he was thinking about how to avoid it, he glanced and suddenly found that there was a hole about 10 feet wide not far to his left. The hole seemed to be connected to a cave. The environment became dim before, and Wei Hong did not notice the existence of the hole at the first time. At this time, he wanted to avoid the monster, but he just happened to find it. It must be said that it was indeed a bit of a coincidence. He didn't have time to think about it, and immediately flew towards the cave entrance on the left, preparing to avoid the hundreds of double-winged flying snakes before continuing to explore forward, so as not to reveal his body and attract a large number of snake monsters. Moreover, Wei Hong had already used his spiritual sense to explore in advance, and there were no snake monsters in the deep cave. Before the group of double-winged flying snakes flew over, he hid directly in the cave entrance. In order to avoid being exposed, he deliberately flew a distance inside along the mountain wall of the cave. But at this moment, Wei Hong's face suddenly changed slightly. Huh? What's going on? He looked around with a look of doubt, but there was nothing unusual. It was just because Wei Hong just noticed that the magic power attached to his flying sword had dissipated a little without any signs. Although the dissipated magic power was very weak, he still noticed it. So Wei Hong mistakenly thought that something unusual had happened, and he was already on guard. But nothing happened around him, as if his perception just now was just a slight illusion. But Wei Hong was very sure that his magic power had indeed dissipated a little, and he firmly believed in this. So he stopped with a vigilant look on his face, and held down a magic weapon and several talismans in his left and right hands. Once any unexpected situation occurred, he could immediately perform a thunderbolt attack. However, Wei Hong carefully explored it with his spiritual sense and found that there was indeed nothing unusual. At this time, he frowned and slowly flew back a distance of 10 feet. Huh? It's coming again. Wei Hong's face turned cold, and he keenly noticed a trace of magic power dissipating. At this time, he was extremely sure that there must be something unusual here. So he turned his head to look at the mountain wall next to him, because he found that when the magic power dissipated, it was when he was close to the mountain wall, so his eyes looking at the mountain wall next to him became dangerous. However, there seemed to be nothing strange about that mountain wall, and there was no abnormality at all. Wei Hong thought about it, and suddenly put his index finger and middle finger together, and then a 3-inch long sword light emerged from his fingertips, and then he raised his finger and gently slashed towards the mountain wall next to him. Chapter 923 Black Crystal Mine! Exclamation mark. Puff. The sword finger easily cut through the surface of the mountain wall, revealing a faint black light. Seeing the appearance of this black light, Wei Hong's eyebrows raised slightly. At this time, his sword finger had penetrated about 2 inches into the mountain wall. Just when he touched the black light, he found that the mana he had gathered on the sword finger dissipated again. Sure enough, the thing behind this mountain wall is definitely not simple. Wei Hong immediately made a very sure judgment in his heart. His previous perception was not an illusion. The thing behind this mountain wall could really make his mana dissipate out of thin air. Faced with such a strange thing, and there was also the possibility of discovering something unusual, Wei Hong immediately raised his spirits, and his spiritual consciousness instantly gathered. His spiritual consciousness first explored the depths of the cave, and after finding that there was no danger, he separated his spiritual consciousness and extended it to the mountain wall next to him. But that spiritual consciousness was directly blocked and could not go any further. Huh? Can it still resist the exploration of spiritual consciousness? Wei Hong was shocked, but his interest suddenly increased. So he thought about it, and decisively used the red flying sword to cut off more than 3 inches of the surface of the mountain wall in front. The broken stones fell down, and soon a large area of black light was revealed. Wei Hong looked at it intently. When he saw the true face of the things behind the black light, his whole face was shocked, and then he exclaimed with ecstasy, Is this black crystal stone? No, more than that, this is a black crystal stone mine. This sudden discovery was like a huge surprise that suddenly fell from the sky and hit Wei Hong. He could never have thought that in this seemingly ordinary cave, there was actually a black crystal stone vein hidden. This was really a pleasant surprise. Yes, no wonder my magic power dissipated a little bit out of thin air. It turned out that it was absorbed by the black crystal stone. That makes sense. Wei Hong looked at the mountain wall in front of him with a face full of surprise, and his eyes were full of burning. At this moment, he finally understood the reason why his magic power dissipated. The black crystals in front of him are also known as spirit-absorbing stones. They are a very rare but extremely valuable ore. Because this black crystal has a very special and extremely practical characteristic, that is, it absorbs spiritual power and mana. Such a rare characteristic can reduce the power of any magic weapon and spell. In simple terms, black crystal can absorb the spiritual power of magic weapons or spells, thereby indirectly weakening the power of magic weapons and spells. If this black crystal is used to refine magic weapons, it can not only speed up the cultivation speed, but also defend against the spiritual power attacks of the magic weapons and spells of the cultivators. Such a characteristic is extremely rare. Of course, how much spiritual power can be absorbed, or how much the power of the opponent's spells and magic weapons can be weakened, it depends on how much black crystal is integrated into the magic weapon itself, which is not absolute. If the strength of the two sides is too different, no matter how many magic weapons are refined with the black crystals, they are useless. But if the strength of the two sides is similar, at a critical moment, the magic weapon refined with a special ore may be very important. Although this kind of black crystal stone belongs to the 3rd level ore, there is no more specific grade classification. It is deeply loved by cultivators above the giant stage and is also very popular in the market. The most important thing is that the output of this special ore seems to be not high. Coupled with its rare characteristics, the price of black crystal stone is very high. As long as it appears on the market, it will be immediately snatched up. The reason why Wei Hong was able to recognize this black crystal stone is also due to the fact that he has read a lot of classics, especially the rare characteristics of black crystal stone, which made him very impressed, so he recognized it at a glance. And now in front of him may be a whole vein of black crystal stone, which naturally makes him ecstatic. Haha, I didn't expect that there would be such a good thing under the 10,000 snakes abyss. It's worth my huge risk to come down here, ha ha ha. When thinking of the high price of black crystal stone, Wei Hong couldn't help but want to laugh out loud. Fortunately, he is very clear about his current situation and position, so he will naturally not do such a rash thing. He was extremely happy, but he didn't dare to make much noise, so as not to attract the attention of the snake demons outside and destroy his great opportunity. However, Wei Hong was also a cautious person. He immediately came to the entrance of the cave and quietly checked it out. He found that the group of double-winged flying snakes had flown away, so he set up a fantasy sky formation at the entrance of the cave to cover the entrance directly. Not only that, he explored the cave for dozens of feet and found that there were no snake demons in the cave. It seemed that it had been abandoned for a long time, so he set up another fantasy sky formation dozens of feet away. In this way, even if he made a loud noise, the snake demons outside the cave would not hear it. After doing all this, Wei Hong returned to the location where he found the black crystal stone vein. Don't get excited first, it's not too late to explore carefully before making a conclusion. Wei Hong had calmed down from the huge surprise at this time. He did not lose his mind, but became more cautious. At this time, he controlled the red flying sword to continue cutting the surface rocks of the mountain wall, wanting to see how large the area of the black crystal stone here is. As the red flying sword cut back and forth, a large amount of broken stones continued to fall to the ground, and then a large area of black light was revealed, which made Wei Hong's surprise more and more intense. Haha, not bad, not bad, just the area of this part that has been revealed is at least 4 or 5 feet wide and more than 5 feet high. I don't know how deep it extends into it. Seeing this part of the black crystal stone vein revealed in front of him, Wei Hong was really getting more and more excited. This is just a small part of the ore. If there is really a black crystal stone vein here, then if you extend it along these black crystal stones into the mountain wall, there must be more black crystal stones. Haha, a treasure mountain, this is definitely a treasure mountain. Thinking that he had accidentally discovered such a treasure mountain of amazing value, Wei Hong felt that his action of exploring the 10,000 snake abyss was indeed correct. Although it is impossible to immediately find out the true storage capacity of this black crystal vein, he knows very well that such a vein, no matter how small, is definitely an unimaginable huge fortune for him personally. As long as all the black crystals here are dug out and sold, they will be exchanged for a large amount of spiritual stones. It just so happens that Wei Hong is now very short of high-quality spiritual stones and various cultivation resources. Once he can cash in this black crystal vein, the various cultivation resources he needs will be completely solved. Thinking of this, his eyes looking at the black crystal in front of him became scorching. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 924, Mineral Veins, Dig. Such an opportunity, it's meant for me. Wei Hong was delighted, but also a little sad. In fact, he knew very well that if he hadn't ventured deep into the 10,000 snakes abyss this time, he would not have been able to obtain such an opportunity and harvest, let alone such an amazing discovery. Wei Hong not only discovered that there were a large number of terrifying monsters above the giant stage hidden in the depths of the 10,000 snakes abyss, but also discovered secret mines such as black crystal stones, and killed a two-headed blue night python. The harvest was beyond his original expectations. Of course, he also understood that this opportunity was inseparable from the special environment of the 10,000 snakes abyss, because there were a large number of snake monsters in the 10,000 snakes abyss, and there were also many snake monsters above the giant stage. The depths of the abyss were extremely dangerous, enough to deter ordinary giant stage cultivators. This should be the reason why the 10,000 snakes abyss has existed here for so long but has never been cleared. Apart from other things, just the terrible monsters hidden in the depths of the abyss, even if the Yuanying stage real person comes here, it may not be good, and there will be some blind forces to come to clear this place, which is completely a thankless task. It is precisely because of this that Wei Hong was given the opportunity to obtain such an opportunity. This naturally requires a little confidence in one's own strength and courage, otherwise he dared not go deep into the 10,000 snakes abyss. How could he find a secret mine like the black crystal stone? If a cultivator could easily come in here, how could this treasure mountain be his turn? After a moment, Wei Hong suppressed his excitement and said to himself, since this black crystal stone vein has been discovered, let's try the difficulty of excavation first. The secret mine has been discovered, and the next step is to consider the issue of excavation. Only by digging out these black crystal stones can it be his real wealth. At this time, the black crystal stone in the ore vein could not be cut directly. In fact, the black crystal stone only occupied a small part of the entire ore vein, and more of it was a kind of associated ore called white crystal. The associated ore of white crystal is known for its hardness, but it is not of much value. Wei Hong thought about it and took out the second-level top-grade spiritual weapon Blood Dragon Black Wong Axe. He personally controlled the axe and cut directly into a huge piece of white crystal. Ling. The sharp axe blade of the Blood Dragon Black Wong Axe chopped on the white crystal, and it made a crisp sound. Although Wei Hong only used 30% of his strength for the purpose of testing this time, and he did not use his magic power, even so, the sharpness of the Blood Dragon Black Wong Axe could not cause any damage to the white crystal, and even did not leave a white mark. Is it so hard? Wei Hong was also slightly surprised and found that he still underestimated the associated ore of the black crystal stone. Even the second-level top-grade spiritual weapon couldn't break the white crystal, which meant that at least a magic weapon-level treasure was needed to dig out the black crystal. Don't worry, try again. Wei Hong's face was calm, and he raised the sharp axe in his hand again. Swish! This time he not only increased his strength, but also injected 1% of his magic power into the Blood Dragon Black Axe. After injecting magic power, a cold light appeared on the axe blade of the Blood Dragon Black Axe. Puff! This time the sharp axe directly cut into the white crystal, but it could only penetrate a little bit, and it couldn't cut it directly. After penetrating a little bit, Wei Hong felt a strong sense of stagnation coming from the axe blade. Obviously, the top-grade spiritual weapon injected with 1% of magic power failed to satisfy Wei Hong. It is worthy of being the companion ore of the black crystal. Its hardness is even higher than I expected. Wei Hong looked at the ore vein in front of him with emotion, but he felt helpless. The results of this experiment have proved that the best spiritual weapon may be able to do the digging work, but he needs to inject more than 2% of his mana into the best spiritual weapon every time, so that he can break a piece of Baeun crystal ore. If he can't dig up the Baeun crystal ore growing next to it, he will never get the black crystal stone. The difficulty of such digging has exceeded Wei Hong's original expectations. But no matter how difficult it is, he must find a way to dig out these black crystal stones. So he no longer hesitated, holding the red flying sword and slashing at the white crystal ore in front of him. Puff! This time he deliberately changed the direction, and the flying sword went deep into most of it, but still failed to directly cut more than 2 feet of white crystal ore completely, and there was still about 3 inches of thickness that could not be cut. Huh? The magic weapon can't directly break this companion ore. Wei Hong was really shocked this time. So he got ruthless, injected a trace of mana into the flying sword, and slashed again in another direction. Puff! Without a doubt, the red flying sword, after being infused with mana, became unstoppable, and it easily cut the white crystal ore in half, and then revealed a part of the black crystal stone. With the advantage of the magic weapon, it is necessary to inject a little mana to easily cut these associated ores. The difficulty of excavation is really not low. Wei Hong shook his head helplessly. He didn't expect that the biggest difficulty in obtaining the black crystal stone would fall on the step of excavation. Although he can easily dig up the associated ore by controlling the magic weapon now, and the mana consumed is not much, he can't stay here to mine all the time. He needs to practice, and it is unrealistic to spend all his time on mining. It seems that the mining can only be left to the paperman. Fortunately, he still has a paperman to mine on his behalf, so this matter is not difficult to solve. The paperman also stores 1/10 of his mana. He only needs to leave 2 papermen and hand over the 2 magic weapons to the papermen, and the excavation work can continue. But in this way, he can't leave Wanxian in a short time. Well, let's find a place to settle down first. It's worth spending some time for this black crystal vein. Since it was impossible to leave the 10,000 snakes abyss, Wei Hong simply prepared to settle down here and practice in seclusion. So after hiding this place, he explored deeper into the cave. With his divine sense to explore the way, he did not find any danger. There seemed to be no snake monsters in this cave, and even the cave was very dry. This was a good thing for Wei Hong, so he didn't have to worry about attracting the attention of a large number of snake monsters. So after he went deep into the cave for hundreds of feet, he found a place that was concave inward, and then he simply used the flying sword to dig directly along the concave place, and soon dug out a secret room that was more than 10 feet wide. After laying out layers of formations in front, behind and at the entrance of this secret room, Wei Hong entered the secret room with peace of mind. So far, he practiced in seclusion here, and at the same time release 2 paper people to dig in the ore vein not far away, without delaying each other. Chapter 925, Yin and Yang Reversal Formation. In the secret room, a 3-foot-high alchemy furnace was floating in front of Wei Hong. There was a green fire lotus underneath that supported it, and it was rising with high temperatures, constantly refining the spiritual herbs inside the furnace. In addition to this furnace, there were many jade boxes and jade bottles placed next to it. Some of the jade boxes had been opened and were empty, while others were tightly covered. Wei Hong looked calm, and his hands changed a spell from time to time to control the temperature of the flame, while his consciousness was always observing the situation inside the furnace. After a while, a buzzing vibration sound suddenly came from the furnace. Wei Hong's eyes moved, and his hands immediately changed the spell quickly, while maintaining a stable input of mana, and controlling the green fire lotus under the furnace to rise suddenly, raising the temperature at once. At this time, the buzzing sound in the furnace became more and more rapid. Wei Hong maintained his own rhythm, and his hands kept changing the spells while his mana never stopped inputting. Soon, the buzzing sound in the furnace reached its peak. Bang! The next moment, the lid on the top of the furnace suddenly opened from the inside out. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Several pale golden shadows flew up from the furnace and wanted to scatter immediately after they jumped out of the furnace. But Wei Hong had expected it. He used his magic power to conjure a giant green hand and grabbed the shadows that had just jumped out of the furnace. Swish! The shadows that jumped out of the furnace were caught in his hand and brought back to him. When the giant green hand slowly opened, the true appearance of the shadows inside was revealed. A total of 6 pale golden pills were lying there quietly, emitting an indescribable fragrance. After seeing the appearance of the 6 pills, Wei Hong immediately chuckled and said, "Haha, good, it's worth my hard work for a long time. I finally refined this Genetin pill." The 6 pills were exactly the 3rd level low-grade pill Genetin pill. Since he exchanged the recipe of Genetin pill from the library, he has not had the opportunity to practice it. In addition, he did not have enough vitality points before, so he did not put too much energy into refining the pill. Now he stayed in the 10,000 Snakes Abyss to practice in seclusion, and it was just right to think about the formation and alchemy after practice. Wei Hong invested some of the vitality points he had obtained before into the 7 Stars Destroying Heaven formation, and Yin-Yang Reversal formation, and also invested some vitality points in the 3 recipes of Genetin pill, Xianling pill and Ningzhen pill, and raised them all to the small success realm. Now, in addition to the necessary practice every day, he will devote his energy and time to the formation and alchemy, and occasionally study the drawing of talismans, and every day is very fulfilling. Now he is a giant and cultivator, the fire in his body is just right for refining pills, and the alchemy furnace is also portable, so he can refine pills anytime and anywhere with all the materials. However, the difficulty of refining 3rd level pills is obviously much higher than that of 2nd level pills. Even though Wei Hong has upgraded the 3 pill recipes to the minor success level, he still feels a little unskilled, or some details are not done well enough, so he has not been able to succeed once in half a month. And this furnace of pills is the first furnace of 3rd level pills he has refined. And 6 pills are made at a time, which is not too bad. Wei Hong is actually quite satisfied with this result. Not bad, the speed is not too slow. Since one furnace has been successfully refined, it should be much easier next time. As the saying goes, the first is difficult and the latter is easy. With a successful experience of this furnace of pills, when he continues to refine pills in the future, the success rate will definitely become higher and higher. Not only that, Wei Hong has also had a preliminary understanding of the 2 3rd level formations. He was currently unable to actually set up the formation because of his closed door training, but he had already carefully studied the 7 Stars Destroying Heaven formation, and Yin-Yang Reversal formation, for quite some time. With the help of vitality points, he only needed to refine the formation flags and then try to set up the formation. Tisk, the 3rd level formation is indeed not comparable to the 2nd level formation. It is not only obscure and difficult to understand, but also extremely complicated and changeable. There are too many things to remember. If it weren't for the vitality points that can directly improve the realm, I might not be able to get started even if I spent 10 years. Wei Hong was quite emotional at this time, and he had a deeper understanding of the powerful role of vitality points. After breaking through to the Golden Core stage, he already had a very clear understanding of all aspects of cultivation. Whether it was the golden core stages skills or spells, or alchemy, talisman drawing, and formations, the difficulty was far greater than what was cultivated in the foundation establishment stage, and the difference in difficulty was definitely more than 10 times, and could even reach 100 times. As a result, even if a giant and cultivator has practiced a secondary skill, they often need to invest a lot of energy and time in that skill before they can reach the realm of mastery. For example, Huan Fugang before, this person's attack method is actually very simple, and he is good at only 1 or 2 spells. This is because this person has practiced for hundreds of years and is only proficient in 1 or 2 spells, and the others can't play much power at all. With the help of vitality points, Wei Hong directly reached the realm of minor success in several skills, and absorbed a lot of practice experience, which enabled him to complete the entry in just half a month and then successfully refine a furnace of elixirs. When he subsequently improves the success rate, it means that he has completely digested the previous gains. This speed of practice is simply many times faster than other cultivators. If other giant and cultivators know about this, it will probably cause the envy and jealousy of countless giant and cultivators. Of course, this requires a lot of vitality points as support. This is also one of the reasons why Wei Hong went deep into the 10,000 Snakes Abyss. He must obtain enough vitality points to help him practice. Without the help of vitality points, his cultivation speed dropped more than 10 times. I have already obtained tens of thousands of vitality points. Now they are just in use. Let's just continue to cultivate here. Wei Hong was not in a hurry to leave, not to mention that he still had to dig for the Black Crystal Stone mine. At the location of the Black Crystal Stone vein not far away, 2 paper figures were digging diligently. They did not know how to get tired or tired at all. They only knew to keep digging according to the command. The 2 paper figures each held a flying sword magic weapon and dug frantically at the Black Crystal Stone vein. After the magic weapon in their hands was injected with mana, it became extremely sharp. Even those companion crystal stones could be easily cut, so the 2 paper figures were working very hard at this time, hoping to bring greater gains to their masters. The only thing that limited the digging speed was the mana consumption in the paper figures, which required Wei Hong to replace the paper figures every once in a while. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.